Even in the Adventurer Training Academy, you've still got the classic school bullies, but there's also one guy who knows exactly how to deal with them. So one day, these bullies start demanding money from his friend. Misato, of course, decides to protect her, and the moment they see him, they just burst out laughing, totally convinced he's no threat at all. But Misato isn't interested in wasting time on their nonsense. He steps forward, and that's when the leader of the bullies decides to teach him a lesson. The guy throws a fireball straight at Misato, and Misato doesn't even blink. With one smooth move, he summons an even bigger fireball and blasts it right back. The explosion is so strong it leaves the rest of the bullies frozen in shock. Their leader starts yelling at his friends like, "Stop standing around like NPCs, do something." So two of them finally attack. One launches a wind blast, the other a water strike. But just like before, Misato counters both attacks effortlessly, using the exact same attributes, just on a way bigger scale. Now they're completely losing it. They can't believe he's the same guy who had no attribute not that long ago, and suddenly he's using multiple types of magic at once? They've never even heard of someone doing that. And the crazy part? This is just Misato defending. He hasn't even started fighting back yet. So he decides to go on the offensive. He charges up this massive fireball, so huge that the moment they see it, the bullies panic and run for their lives. Well, not all of them. Misato catches their leader, slams him into the ground with that fireball, and basically gives him a quick lesson in manners. But as he's standing there, he's reminded of his previous life, back when he was the strongest adventurer alive, the one who always protected the weak and fought monsters to keep the world safe. His friends, though, they weren't the same. They betrayed him, left him alone to face every monster he'd sealed inside a portal. That's how he died last time, but it wasn't the end. When Misato opens his eyes again, he's in a much younger body in a different place. He stands up from the hospital bed and takes a look in the mirror. This new body has a younger face and short hair, and as he places his hand on the mirror, he realizes that the reincarnation worked just as he intended. Right now, he seems to be in a hospital, but the place has medicines that he isn't familiar with. It must have been several years since the incident, and he just hopes that it hasn't been too long so he can still take revenge on the people that betrayed him. On a table beside the bed, he finds a student ID that must have belonged to the previous owner of the body he's using now. From the date on the card, he can tell that it has been at least 20 years since the incident, meaning that he should still have time to find them. The name of the student is Asai Kyosuke, and they have the Void attribute at level 1. Seeing that attribute causes Misato to laugh maniacally as his luck. In his previous life, he was feared by his comrades for being the strongest because of his time attribute, but as he improved, he realized that he couldn't get any stronger. That's because even though his clairvoyance was able to see everything about the world, even he couldn't see the true depth of the Void attribute's power. But now this body that he possesses has the mysterious power, and Misato feels sorry for him. That's because the Void attribute is so rare and unexplored that it's also something that no one knows how to train. That's also probably why the boy is still at level 1. He was also probably mocked for having no attribute multiple times, despite unknowingly having the strongest. Now that he knows the situation that he is in, Misato makes a promise to the boy that's long gone, that he will make his name known throughout the world as the strongest adventurer that has ever lived. Thanks to his clairvoyance ability, Misato knows how to train the Void attribute, and with the power, he will become the absolute strongest in the world. Once he trains this weak level 1 body to something truly powerful, then he will make sure that the traitors from his past life will regret betraying him and causing his death. In order to get his revenge on them, Misato will have to get this kid past level 1. He was definitely more powerful than them in his past life, but now he's just a teenager. The Void attribute, as the name suggests, is a type of magic related to the control of nihility. The ability allows the user to freely project one's imagination into reality. Everyone is capable of imagining things, but turning that imagination into reality is where the difficulty lies. Luckily for Misato, this body that he has taken over is badly injured. That means that he can practice his new abilities on healing himself. All he has to do is apply the image that he has in his mind to his body, and visualize himself slowly healing his injuries. If he focuses, he can imagine every single cell in his body being restored by magic. Slowly, as he applies the magic to his arm first, and the massive bruise slowly starts to heal itself. It's only rudimentary casting for now, so the recovery speed isn't great, and he can tell that the inside of the arm isn't fully healed, but it's still very promising progress. If he continues using the ability to heal all his wounds, his level will slowly increase over time. The ability to convert imagination into reality will also improve over time as he continues to use it. As he levels up, it will also increase the scope of what kind of images he can convert into reality. Through that steady development, he can create many different kinds of things, and then he will eventually be able to use many different kinds of magic. It will even get to the point where the picture that the user creates in their mind can be created perfectly in reality. As he thinks about the potential applications of his new abilities, a doctor bursts through the door and is shocked that he's finally awake. Misato tries to get up, but the doctor tells him to sit down since he was seriously injured after getting attacked by a monster. This is the first time Misato has heard what happened to the former owner of his body. It must have been really bad. because the doctor is shocked that he woke up at all. He thinks that the miracle must be thanks to the blessing of the saintess. That's the first time Masato has heard the word of a saintess. But to the doctor, it's common knowledge, and he's shocked that Masato doesn't know about her. She is known as the saintess of the pentagram saints, but Masato doesn't know what that is either. The doctor just attributes his lack of basic knowledge to the fact that he just regained consciousness after sustaining severe injuries. For now, he switches the topic to giving Masato a thorough examination. As he leaves, Masato can't shake the thought of these pentagram saints out of his mind. Maybe they are one of the clans or adventurers that came to be in the past 20 years. While he's focused on leveling up, he also needs to get a grasp of what has changed over the past 2 decades. He grabs a remote from the bedside table and tunes to a news station. It's coincidentally playing a special program about the Triple S-class dungeon disaster that happened 20 years ago. That's exactly what he needs information on, and he needs to know what happened after he was betrayed. The broadcast states that the culprit of the disaster was the leader of the Golden Seekers, Misato Kyoichiro himself. Misato jumps out of bed in shock as he sees his own face plastered on the TV screen. He has no idea what they are talking about and keeps listening. Apparently, the news that went around was that he predicted the upcoming disaster but refused to tell anyone about it. Instead, he was planning to take advantage of the impending chaos that would sweep the world in order to take charge and rule it. To stop this, the other members of the Golden Seekers came together and fought him to prevent this from happening. After defeating Masato, the remaining members of the Golden Seekers renamed themselves as the Pentagram Saints, and after a fierce battle, they sealed the dungeon and saved the world. This false truth is a common knowledge now that the whole world knows about, and the Pentagram Saints have gone on to lead the world in many different areas. Masato turns off the news broadcast and stares out the window in shock. The shock turns to uncontrollable laughter as he figures out just what happened while he was gone. Not only did they betray him, they also dragged his name and dignity through the mud. They sacrificed him and shamelessly reaped the rewards. In the end, now they are being hailed by the world as heroes while he's rotting. With this new news, he is definitely not going to forgive them. Now he has to make sure that all of them go to hell one by one. But he has to calm himself down before he goes overboard. After all, he can't get detected by them since he is way too weak to take them on as he is right now. The first thing he has to figure out is where they are and how he can get to them. He takes the boy's phone and scans through it to figure out what academy he attends. Just as he thought, he attends Tokigo Adventurer Training Academy, which is headed by one of the Pentagram Saints, Iwako Hideki. He just woke up, and now he has already located one of the saints so easily. Iwako is a cautious man though, and he's not the type of person that would just show his weaknesses so easily. On top of that, the difference in their levels is just too great. Beating him as he is right now is pretty much impossible. For now, he has to focus on growing his levels and becoming stronger. He can't do anything at level 1, but once he grows to an acceptable range, then he will make sure that Iwako is the first target. A few weeks pass, and eventually Masato is fully recovered and preparing to be discharged. The doctor can't believe that he made such a speedy recovery despite how badly injured he was. He starts to think that Masato was once again blessed by the saintess, but our MC cuts him off before he can finish that sentence. He wants the doctor to know for sure that everything that he has achieved so far was thanks to his own power. With that, he leaves the hospital, bidding farewell to the doctor for the last time as he walks out. Now that he's done with the bare-bones preparation for his plan, he's ready to take things to the next level. He has also managed to raise his level up to 27. It's time for him to get a warm-up and test his new abilities by heading to a dungeon. Before he left the hospital, he heard from the doctor that all of Kyosuke's family had died in an accident. It's tragic for Kyosuke, but for Masato, it makes things so much easier since that means that he can do whatever he wants, and he doesn't have to worry about anyone questioning his actions. As soon as he makes his way out of the hospital, he heads over to the nearest dungeon gate to start his first adventure. He has to make sure that he levels up and grows stronger as fast as possible. Now that he has grown his level by healing himself, it's time for him to test out his new skills in actual combat. He heads over to the stall by the gate where the security guard grants permission to enter, and he shows his student ID card. The guard grabs his hand to stop him before he can continue into the gate. He's worried about Masato entering the dungeon since he's only level 27, and this dungeon is usually a place where adventurers have to be at least level 30 to form up parties and enter the dungeon. Despite the strict regulations, Masato plans to enter the dungeon alone, which to the guard is essentially the same as suicide. That would be true for anyone with a normal class. But Masato is a student from the Tokigo Adventurer Training Academy, and that should give him special permissions to enter this place despite how dangerous it is. As long as he signs a consent form, it should be fine for him to enter without any restrictions. He knew something like this would happen when he approached the dungeon gate, so he looked up the special privileges he gets as a student of the school, and this is one of many. The guard has no choice but to let him through, but that doesn't change the fact that he's worried. Some voices call out to him from the other side of the compound. A group of thuggish-looking kids tells Masato that the guard is just worried about him, so he shouldn't take it to heart. After all, he's just a weak student that hasn't even graduated from the academy yet, so he should know his place. Misato only spares them one glance before he turns around and asks the guard where he's supposed to sign. He puts his signature and leaves to enter the dungeon after confirming that there shouldn't be any more issues. The guard watches our MC leaves and then calls out to the kids from earlier and tells them to head into the dungeon and follow Misato. He can't get over the fact that just allowing a kid to walk in there unprotected is basically suicide. At first, they try to argue with the guard since they are not willing to risk their necks for someone they barely know, but the leader among them stops his friends from making a big fuss. This might end up being good for them at the end of the day. If nobody is watching them inside the dungeon, then they can head in there and do whatever they want. Even if something terrible were to happen in there wouldn't be problems or consequences. His friends immediately understand what he's talking about, and they happily rush into the dungeon to follow Misato. Now they can pay him back for being such a brat to them and trying to attempt a dungeon that should be way above his level. The guard cheerfully sends them, completely unaware of their true intentions. This isn't the first time that they have done this. They kill the people that make their way into the dungeon and then blame it on the monsters. Thanks to that, they can line their pockets handsomely, and no one is any wiser about it. With that in mind, they continue chasing after Misato, but 10 minutes of running later, they still haven't caught up to him. The dungeon is a straight path, so it's impossible for them to have lost him, and at this point, they have no idea how he has gotten so far away. Eventually, they finally catch up to him, and they see him surrounded by a wall of monsters. At first, they think that they won't have to kill him after all, and the monsters will take care of him for them, but Misato proves them wrong by using fire magic combined with wind magic to kill all the monsters in a matter of seconds. They are shocked by the fact that he managed to kill so many D-ranked monsters at once, but they are also more interested in the massive loot drops that came from the monsters. If they sell that loot drop, then they can live comfortably for at least 6 months. Misato's back is still turned to them, so they think that he hasn't noticed them yet. This is the perfect time for them to spring an attack and kill him so they can get the rare loot drop. The three spring into action and surround him, then all at once, they unleash their magic at him. Misato finally turns around and gives them his attention, skillfully dodging all their attacks without wasting a second. He's used to these kinds of things already from his past life. No matter what era it is, there's always scum that tries to take what belongs to someone else. Since he dodged all their long-ranged attacks, one of them charges up a fireball and goes in close to take down Misato with a magically enhanced punch. Misato is quicker, however, and charges his fist with ice, which he uses to punch the attacker square in the stomach and send him flying back to his friends. The goon is taken down in a second and left to rot at the back while Misato turns and approaches the rest, who are now cowering in fear. In this new life, he won't be as merciful as he used to be. He plans to crush anyone that gets in his way and then use them as a stepping stone to get to his next goal without hesitation. Everything that he will do from now on is all for the sake of his revenge. With the goons taken care of, Misato leaves the dungeon completely unharmed. But the disappearance of the boys causes a teacher from the academy to come and check on what happened. The man is a subordinate of Iwako, Yoichi Tsudai, and he got the news that one of his students entered the dungeon alone. Instead of finding his student struggling, though, he instead finds 3 novice hunter adventurers lying dead on the ground. But there's no clues to explain what in the world happened in the dungeon. Back with Misato, he looks through his new stats now that he managed to finish the dungeon. Thanks to clearing the D-rank dungeon, he was able to level up and test out his void magic at the same time. Now he has gained a new spell called Info Obscurity, which allows him to not only take his level, but also erase his dungeon entry records. Thanks to that, he can wipe any clues from the D-rank dungeon that could lead back to him. Now that he has moved on from that, tomorrow is his first day at the academy, and he needs to prepare for it. He takes a look through Kyosuke's phone and sees some unread messages from people that are clearly bullying him and extorting money from him through violence. That perfectly explains what Kyosuke has been through and how he got in that sorry state. The next day, he heads to school, and as he walks through the front gate, he's greeted by a cute girl that seems to know him. This is his classmate Asahi Karin, and she runs up to ask him how he's doing after being hospitalized. It looks like despite his struggles, Kyosuke had people that were worried about him. As the two of them talk, a group of bullies come to confront Kyosuke. They tease him for being someone with no attribute, and they are clearly aware of the fact that he barely escaped death. These are most likely the people that were sending him threatening messages the night before. The lead bully steps up to them and demands for Kyosuke to pay up for them always having to protect him, and it's clear that this is going to lead to a fight. Karen gets in front of him and tries to stop the bullies, reminding them that Kyosuke just got discharged from the hospital. Although she's trying to be brave for him, her shaky hands are a clear sign that she's terrified. Our MC notices this and gets in front of her, assuring her that he will be fine. The bullies laugh at him, thinking that he's just trying to be cool in front of a girl. Since he's so eager to show off, the bullies are more than happy to remind him of his place in the school. Unfortunately for them, they haven't yet realized that the hierarchy has changed since Misato took over. He made a promise to the boy whose body he took over that he will make his name known throughout the world as the strongest adventurer. And Misato considers himself to be a person that keeps to his word. He taunts the first bully, and it works incredibly well, causing him to cast a spell towards Misato's direction. Using magic outside of dungeons is against school rules, but it seems like the bullies don't care anymore. They need to show Misato that it's wrong to step out of line when they don't have attributes. He tosses a fireball at our MC, and Misato returns it in kind, countering his attack with an even bigger fireball. The two attacks clash, resulting in a huge explosion while the bullies wonder when Kyosuke got the ability to use a fireball. Misato is barely fazed by the weaker attacks, and the bully tells his friends to stop standing around like NPCs and do something. The two of them unleashed wind and water attacks towards Misato, but just like with their boss, Misato counters the two attacks with similar attacks on a larger scale. They can barely believe that someone who had no attribute not too long ago is now using multiple magic attributes at once. This is a power that they have never heard about before, but it's just the beginning. Misato has just been using their own powers to nullify their attacks, but now it's his turn to go on the offensive. He charges up a massive fireball behind him to intimidate them, and the size of it causes them to run away in fear as he steps towards them. Misato grabs the closest one who's screaming for help as he tries to run away. Then he asks the boy if he gave Kyosuke any help back when he needed it. Without waiting to hear the boy's answer, he grabs him by the face and holds him up while charging a massive fireball in his fist. He knows that there is no need to hear what the guy has to say since people like him always end up saying the same things anyway. That's why, no matter what he ends up spouting out, it won't stop Misato's fist from crashing into his face. With that, he unleashes a massive blow on the boy, sending him flying backwards and leaving him unconscious in the academy courtyard. Karen can barely believe that this is the same Kyosuke from before, but it's obvious that something in him has changed. Now Kyosuke isn't going to be someone that will get picked on by nobodies anymore. He will start walking the path to becoming the strongest adventurer. Now that they've seen just how powerful Misato really is, the bullies start desperately begging for their lives. They carry their fallen friend and limp their way out of the courtyard, still shocked by the fact that Kyosuke seems to have become a completely different person after being discharged from the hospital. Misato sighs in disappointment. After all of the talk, the bully turns out to not be all that he's cracked out to be. He walks with Karen into the school, and it's clear that all the students saw what he did in the courtyard. They all stare at him and whisper to themselves as he walks past. Misato notices the stares and wonders if he stood out too much by showing off like that. As he walks with Karen, someone tries to cut through the crowd to get to him before he can enter his class. It's Yoichi Tsudai, and he approaches Kyosuke to ask some questions before class. Kyosuke has no idea who this guy is, but he looks like an upperclassman. It'd definitely be a pain to deal with him, and he decides to shrug off the invitation to chat. He turns around and says that they can't talk now since class is about to start, but Yoichi isn't going to take no for an answer. He introduces himself as the leader of Biting the Cat, which is a clan that Principal Iwako made for the school. That catches Kyosuke's attention immediately, and his hand freezes as he's about to open the door. Seeing that he has gotten our MC's attention, he asks again whether Kyosuke would be willing to have a brief chat and spare some of his time. Since the context has changed, Kyosuke happily agrees to have the chat with his upperclassmen. They find a secluded place to chat, and Yoichi gets straight to the point. He asks Kyosuke if he is the one that defeated the adventurers that were found dead in the D-rank dungeon. Our MC plays dumb, but on the inside, he's wondering how the information that he specially concealed got out. Yoichi says that he heard from the staff that a student of his academy had entered the dungeon, and he went in to investigate. And inside the dungeon, he found the bodies of the infamous criminals known for hunting novices. On top of that, not even up to 10 minutes ago, Kyosuke used multiple attributes to fight his fellow students. While all of those are true, the way Yoichi presents his evidence means that he doesn't really know the specifics of our MC's magic, and he also has no proof that he really was the one who took out those novice adventurers. Yoichi gets more aggressive and orders Kyosuke to spit it out and admit to what he did. But our MC remains calm and tells him that this morning, he only acted in self-defense, so he doesn't fully know what happened. Then he reaches into his jacket and pulls out the student ID card that he altered to show a fake level. The ID card says that he's just level 1, which means he can't possibly be strong enough to do all the things that he's being accused of. On top of that, he also has the Void attribute, which is well known to be a pointless attribute that might as well mean you have no magic. The fact that Kyosuke is just a nobody and is wasting Yoichi's time makes him angry, and he turns to leave, apologizing for calling him over for no reason. Before he leaves, he warns Kyosuke to avoid acting suspiciously so that he doesn't make trouble for his seniors. Kyosuke watches the upperclassmen leave with a smile. It looks like he has found someone that would be beneficial to his future plans. If he gets Yoichi under his thumb, then the senior can approach Iwako without the principal getting wary. The next thing he has to do is figure out a way to make Yoichi his pawn. This is the perfect time for him to test out an experimental spell that he has been cooking up for a while. Meanwhile, Yoichi goes to meet Principal Iwako to give an incident report of what happened in the D-rank dungeon. Iwako listens silently, before reminding Yoichi that it's unusual for him to make mistakes. He has warned his subordinates several times that he should be careful choosing who to use. Yoichi apologizes for his mistakes and bows down to the principal, promising to try and calm the situation as soon as possible. Iwako walks up to his subordinate as he continues to bow and reminds him that if it becomes known that he worked with adventurers who hunt novices, then the backlash will also reach the principal, who is a pentagram saint. Then he grabs the student by the face and tells him that if he continues to make mistakes like these, then he will be discarded in a heartbeat. Yoichi bows his head lower and tells the older man that he understands. On the outside, he seems polite and submissive, but inside, Yoichi is seething at the fact that he has to deal with this old man. If he had known that things would end up like this, then he would have tried to squeeze out more hush money from the novice hunters. Now that the major things have been discussed, Iwako still doesn't fully believe Yoichi's story. According to the report that he gave, the student that caused this whole mess should at least be a third-year student. But there's no third-year student who entered the dungeon recently according to the records. What Iwako suspects is that a monster defeated the group while they were busy hunting novices, and now Yoichi is desperately trying to cover it up. Rather than thinking that one of the academy's students is capable of beating novice hunters on their own, it's more realistic to think that Yoichi is just lying to save face. The only way that Iwako could be wrong is if something unusual happened. Yoichi immediately remembers the void attribute student from earlier. He asks Iwako if it's possible for a unique attribute to be involved in this mess. While it's plausible, it's also highly unlikely, and Iwako doesn't buy it. Yoichi has heard what he needs to know, and he tells the principal to leave it to him. He will find out the root cause of the matter and deal with it swiftly. And he knows that Kyosuke is where he needs to start. The next day, a group of students are having a training course in a dungeon. They all unleash their magic on the monsters in the dungeon, but some of them are way too strong and jump over the students to attack them. The students desperately run away as Yoichi runs past them and blasts the monster in the back with powerful magic, causing it to fall to the ground. He calmly tells the students not to break formation and to remain calm and orderly. The students marvel at how amazing Yoichi is, and they aren't shocked by the fact that he was chosen by Principal Iwako to lead biting the cat. Now that all the monsters in the area have been taken care of, he leaves the rest of the dungeon clearing to the student and walks off to deal with a personal matter. Now that pressing matters have been taken care of, it's time for him to do what he really came here for. He pulls a piece of jewelry out of his pocket and activates it to reveal Kyosuke's current location. The chains glow for a moment, then point in a direction much deeper into the dungeon, far away from the other students. It's just as Yoichi thought. There's definitely something weird going on with Kyosuke, and he's determined to know what's going on. This is much better for him anyway, since no one would think twice about the death of a student who wandered away from the group. He'll just tell everyone that he happened to find Kyosuke already dead, deeper within the dungeon. Tragedies like these are a common occurrence in dungeons anyway, and he won't lose any sleep at night for it. The more Yoichi thinks about the strange student, the more he's sure that there is something that he needs to figure out. First, it was the incident with the novice hunters, and after that, it was nothing but trouble after he got discharged from the hospital. The boys that Kyosuke beat up also gave a rather interesting story that he wants to know more about. When he interrogated them, they begged for forgiveness and claimed that the boy with no attributes took them all on at once and even used multiple types of magic to attack them. Not only that, even after using the same type of magic they used, he also created a huge flame like nothing they have ever seen before. The whole thing is way too unrealistic for Yoichi to believe, and he's almost completely sure that they are lying. Once he finished asking the boys what he needed to know, he left them alone, but not before telling his subordinates to re-educate them and make sure that they understand that the academy has no use for weaklings who lose to people that are incompetent. He walks away as the boys cry for mercy, but the matter has been decided, and he doesn't plan on changing his mind. One of the bullies speaks up before he can leave the room. This one is the most badly beaten among them, and he's the same one that Kyosuke gave a devastating fire-charged punch to. He warns Yoichi that Kyosuke has long since stopped being human, and he has a whole different level of power. The fear in his eyes is definitely not something that can be faked. And just to be sure, Yoichi had Kyosuke placed in a special class hosted by Biting the Cat. Instead of showing off all the things that the boys claimed though, just created some powerful illusions which isn't half as impressive as what they claimed he could do. It's more likely that Kyosuke used some kind of magic item during their fight, and he's just a weak non-attribute that doesn't need any attention. He's also sure that our MC must have used some kind of underhanded method to take care of the novice hunters too. As he walks deeper into the dungeon, he starts to notice some monster corpses littered around the area. These monsters were most likely defeated by Kyosuke, and it looks like they were defeated with a single hit of fire. Seeing the evidence right in front of him makes Yoichi think that maybe those boys weren't just exaggerating after all. But the level of power he's seeing still isn't a big deal for him, and he continues walking deeper into the dungeon to find his target. Even Iwako, the pentagram dropout, could surely do something at this level of power. Speaking of Iwako, Yoichi is forced to do as he says for now, but one day the leader of Biting the Cat plans to surpass the old man and take his place as one of the pentagram saints himself. From there, he can go on to rule the world. Just thinking about it makes him laugh maniacally. That aside, he mustn't let anyone find out about his connection to the novice hunters. Kyosuke is also another thorn in his side that is likely to cause more trouble in the future. To ensure that little accidents don't happen to affect his grand plan, he has to make sure that Kyosuke is taken care of as soon as possible. The chains lead him to a dead-end part of the dungeon, and he's sure that his target should be just around the corner. He reaches the room and turns the corner, wondering just what in the world Kyosuke could be doing in a place like this. His answers are soon answered as he sees the student calmly resting on a pile of monster corpses, as if he were waiting for Yoichi. The moment he turns the corner, Kyosuke scolds him for being late and keeping him waiting. Yoichi can barely believe what he's seeing. After all, his presence should have been completely concealed. But it's clear that Kyosuke was patiently waiting for him this entire time. His mind starts to race as he wonders how Kyosuke managed to notice his presence, but our MC parrots his thoughts perfectly before he can even finish thinking them. On top of being powerful to unknown degrees, it looks like our MC can even read thoughts now. That's another problem for Yoichi to worry about as he tries to figure out who he's facing off against. With no reason to hide in the corner anymore, Yoichi comes out and directly asks Kyosuke what exactly he is. Kyosuke doesn't answer the question and instead compliments Yoichi on being someone personally chosen by Iwako, but then he also says that the feat isn't something that he should think of as a big deal. The way he hunted down the novices and extorted money from them is a cowardly act, just like his mentor, Iwako. That's something that no one should know, but it's clear that Kyosuke has his upperclassmen all figured out. Then our MC jumps down from the corpse pile to confront his senior directly. He knows that Yoichi seems to enjoy tormenting others, but that is only because he has never understood how it feels to be hunted. Now that he has decided to cross Kyosuke, our MC will be more than happy to teach him what it feels like to be hunted, and by the end of it, he will use his magic to make Yoichi dance. After everything he has seen today, Yoichi can confirm it for himself. Kyosuke has become someone incredibly dangerous that he can't ignore. He activates a sword with fire magic and prepares to go to battle with the powerful student. For the sake of his ambition, he will do his best to defeat Kyosuke at all costs. Without wasting a second, Yoichi pushes off the ground towards our MC, charging towards him and unleashing a devastating strike. Kyosuke dodges it effortlessly, and he's not at all impressed by Yoichi's weak level of skill. Then he returns the attack in kind by charging up a fireball in his hand and sending it right back at Yoichi. The senior student cuts through the flame with his sword, and he too isn't impressed with Kyosuke's level of skill. It's clear that the two of them are holding back against each other, and the battle is just starting. As soon as the flame clears, a burst of lightning cuts directly towards him, and he is only barely able to block it with his sword. Then several sharp spikes pop out from the earth below him, but he's able to cut them all up in an instant with a few sharp sword strikes. That confirms that Kyosuke really is able to use multiple magic attributes at once. It looks like there is something crazy going on with his void magic that he has never heard of before. As he's talking, Kyosuke dashes behind him with an ice sword and goes for a backstab, but Yoichi is just barely quick enough to react in time and block it. Now suddenly, the upperclassman is on the back foot, and he's being pushed back by a much stronger and faster Kyosuke. Now, the leader of Biting the Cat is starting to get irritated. Ever since Kyosuke popped out of nowhere, he has done nothing but get in the way of Yoichi's plans. Kyosuke has no idea what he's talking about since he doesn't even know what the upperclassman's plans are. His plan is very simple. He one day wants to become the person that surpasses Iwako. After doing that, he will take Iwako's place as one of the Pentagram Saints. Kyosuke has no idea why he would choose Iwako since there are other Pentagram Saints, but the reason is simple as well. It's because Iwako is a Pentagram Saint dropout. If Yoichi plans to become a Pentagram Saint, then it makes sense for him to target the weakest one. And once he manages to become one of them, then he will earn the right to rule the world. Kyosuke is not impressed at all by the simple and uninteresting plan. He thought Yoichi might have gotten to Iwako first, but it looks like the upperclassman only has a pathetic ambition. There's no need for him to be worried about someone so pointless taking his spot as the person who will kill Iwako. The unwanted criticism angers Yoichi, and he charges at our MC with new vigor, and the two clash with their respective swords. Yoichi just wants power and money and women to be an easy access in his life. He wants the kind of power where no matter how much he tramples on others, no one can say anything. If he becomes a Pentagram Saint, then he can do whatever he wants, and he might even get a hold of the Saintess's weakness, and maybe he can go on to claim her as well. Kyosuke is tired of hearing the delusions of his power-hungry opponent, and he prepares to end this battle once and for all. With a quick flick of his sword, he sends Yoichi flying backwards, and the force is strong enough to break the upperclassman's sword. On top of that, thanks to Yoichi's meaningless rambling, it gave Kyosuke enough time to prepare a special magic spell. Yoichi cowers in fear as Kyosuke gets close and tells him to dance. Then he places a palm close to Yoichi's face, using his void magic to cast absolute hypnosis. The spell requires some effort to break the target's spirit first, but once it's activated, it will allow Yoichi to have complete control over the will of his opponent. He orders Yoichi to get up, and in an instant he rises to his feet like a zombie. It looks like the spell was a success, and he managed to get Yoichi under his complete control. Then he gives his new puppet orders to focus on completing the dungeon mission for the sake of the class. Then later on, he will get further instructions on what to do next. Finally, Kyosuke tells him to go back to using his normal tone since his current tone is too robotic. With that, Yoichi returns. But he is now fully under Kyosuke's control. As the man walks away, Kyosuke lets out a devious smile before walking off to return to his group. As he makes his way through the dungeon, he's found by Karen, who has been looking for him for a while. She was worried about him since he suddenly disappeared from the group without a trace. Kyosuke puts on his best smile and apologizes for disappearing all of a sudden. He tells her that he just went to talk to Yoichi about something. That shocks her since she didn't know that he and Yoichi were so close, and she asks him what they were talking about. He tells her that they were just talking about how to make their dreams come true, and he got some good advice. The advice was so great, in fact, that one of his dreams has already come true. Their conversation is interrupted by the group of students leaving the dungeon. The special class is about to end, and all students need to report back to the group before they leave. Karen turns around to head back to the group and tells Kyosuke to follow her. Everything is going right according to his plan, and now he has managed to acquire a pawn that Iwako would never suspect. Yoichi returns to give a progress report on how his investigation into the person that attacked the novice hunters is going. He tells Iwako that the student who attacked the novice hunters is actually a student with a unique attribute just like he suspected. The student is Asai Kyosuke, and he's a first-year student with the void attribute. Yoichi claims that he is holding Kyosuke captive at the usual torture location, and he is also interrogating the first year to dig out information. That is how the student admitted to using multi-attribute magic. That catches Iwako's attention, and he asks what Yoichi means by multi-attribute magic. The specifics are currently unknown, but Yoichi asks for some more time to figure out what hidden secrets Kyosuke has. On top of that, it's been a while since the principal has had any hands-on time with their victims. Yoichi asks Iwako if he would like to be in charge of the students' torture and interrogation. This sort of thing isn't usually something that Iwako would concern himself with, but just once wouldn't be bad for him. It's been a while since he tortured someone, and it'd be a good opportunity to repay the kid generously for all the trouble that he has caused to both the principal and Yoichi. As the two discuss, Iwako's phone rings, and he tells Yoichi to leave, assuring him that he will go to the warehouse later to take care of it himself. Then the man answers the phone, to be greeted by a mocking female voice on the other side. She greets him and thanks him for choosing her company during the previous day's bid on materials. Iwako isn't ready to hear her pretentious tone and tells her to drop the act. The person on the other side of the line is one of the Pentagram Saints, and the current CEO of Lei Company, Lei Ruoxi. She drops the act just as he asked and reminds him that they are both partners since they are sharing the government's lovely subsidies. Iwako still isn't in the mood for her annoying mockery, and he tries to end the conversation by telling her that he's busy right now and they can talk on another day. She asks him what business that he could possibly have since he has an easy job as a ruler of an academy that constantly fills his pockets. He tells about Kyosuke and his void attribute, and that catches her interest. She knows the void attribute as a useless attribute and wonders what Iwako wants to do with a failure like that. He agrees with her that the void attribute isn't worth much concern, but he also reminds her that anything could happen since the void attribute is still a unique attribute. It's obvious to her that Iwako is still thinking about Kyoichiro Masato's time attribute magic. The principal doesn't like hearing that man's name and screams at her so loud that she has to take the phone away from her eyes because of the volume. Iwako is still as short-tempered as ever whenever Masato is mentioned, but she can't blame him for that. After all, as soon as Masato awakened his time attribute power, the balance of power between adventurers shifted completely. Since she has said what she needs to, she decides to end the call and tells him that she will contact him later. Iwako slams the phone receiver on the table as soon as the call disconnects. He doesn't like talking to her, and he especially doesn't like hearing the name of their former leader. Just hearing it has gotten him fired up, and it seems now is the perfect time for him to take out all his anger. Iwako heads to a secluded warehouse in the forest where he and Yoichi usually carry out their torture methods on their victims. As he walks towards the large doors, he wonders how he's going to torture the student, going through various different torture methods in his head. He couldn't let out all his anger on Masato, so he will pour it out on Kyosuke instead. The door opens up to an empty warehouse, and neither Kyosuke or Yoichi are there. As Iwako is trying to figure out what's going on, Yoichi comes up from behind with his sword drawn and aims directly for Iwako's face. The principal doesn't even look behind him as he catches the sword between two of his fingers. For Yoichi to think that an attack like that would land, he must have severely underestimated his principal. Iwako charges up energy in his hand, ready to teach Yoichi a lesson. If he was upset at the mention of Masato earlier, then this petty attack has made him manic with rage. He wraps Yoichi with magical chains and holds him upside down. Then he kicks his subordinate away with ease, sending him falling to the ground with a grunt of pain. Clearly, Yoichi made the wrong choice here, by challenging Iwako without acknowledging their difference in strength. Now it's time for Iwako to break him down and destroy all his foolish desires. Before he can start teaching Yoichi a lesson, a stern voice speaks up behind him and laughs at the fact that Iwako still remains an idiot. The principal turns his head towards the voice and sees Kyosuke calmly walking out of the warehouse. He continues to berate Iwako, pointing out his love of groveling before the strong and exploiting the weak. The older man is still just as greedy and foolish as he's always been. Iwako still doesn't realize just who he's talking to, and tries to remind the student that he's talking to the principal of the academy. But Kyosuke doesn't stop talking. He points out the fact that Iwako is a hypocrite, since if anyone has ruined themselves with their selfish desires, it's definitely him. That's the last straw for Iwako, and he demands that Kyosuke give him his student number so he can be expelled. Kyosuke smiles at how Iwako still hasn't figured out just who he is. He has worked so hard to get to this moment, and now it's finally time for he and Iwako to have a chat between themselves. Iwako still has no idea just who he's talking to, but now he's sure that he's going to need to teach Kyosuke a great lesson to prove just how great the difference in their strength is. He starts the attack with advanced Earth attribute magic, creating a giant fist out of rocks to destroy Kyosuke in one hit. Normally, there'd be no way a student would avoid an attack like that. He sends the fist flying towards Kyosuke, who doesn't react to it, and it looks like he's about to take the full brunt of the attack. The attack lands, and Iwako starts to laugh wildly, thinking that Kyosuke has been taken out so easily. This is what happens when mere students try to defy him. The smoke clears, and there's no sign of life left, and the warehouse is completely destroyed with nothing left. Iwako starts to think that he went a bit too far since he destroyed the warehouse, since he'll now have to think of a new place to torture other people. He never even got to figure out who Kyosuke was, but he can at least stick around to watch him die. Once he feels like his job is done, he turns around to leave, but then notices Kyosuke standing in front of him, completely untouched. Our MC calmly walks out of the wreckage and reminds Iwako that he only wanted a little chat and not violence. The principal can barely believe that a mere student got hit by his advanced magic, but still managed to come out of it completely untouched. There has never been a student as powerful as that before. Now Iwako isn't just curious, he's furious, and he demands to know who Kyosuke is. Kyosuke smiles and asks Iwako if he still hasn't figured out who he is after all this time. Iwako still doesn't know who Kyosuke is, and tells the student to stop messing around and just reveal his name already. Kyosuke smiles and asks Iwako one more time if he really forgot about him. That's when Iwako finally notices from the way he talks and the mannerisms that this student looks and sounds an awful lot like Misato. The older man starts to back away in fear, not believing that Misato could be back. After all, that guy is definitely dead, and made sure of it by locking the portal. He starts to think that all of this must be some kind of sick act put on by Kyosuke, and he tells the student to stop the performance. Kyosuke probably just saw the new segment about Misato recently and is trying to play a character to look intimidating. That's the only explanation because as far as he's concerned, Misato Kyoichiro is dead. With that, Iwako charges up wind magic in his hand and gathers earth magic around himself as he prepares to unleash another heavy attack. Kyosuke sighs in disappointment at just how little Iwako has changed. He has always been like this, and he lives his life only believing what's convenient for him while ignoring what isn't. Iwako is tired of hearing Kyosuke's lectures and continues to charge up his magic attack. He warns the man that if he continues to come closer, then he will be hit with a full blast of his magic. Kyosuke continues to walk forward, charging a magic blast of his own. He has figured out the man's motive by now. He was swayed by the sweet words of those around him, and that's why he ended up betraying Misato. Saying his name seems like the last straw for Iwako as he tosses a fully charged magical attack at the student. Kyosuke responds in kind with a blast of fire magic, completely nullifying the attack with a single swipe of his hand. The air clears as both their spells dissipate, leaving Iwako completely shocked that a student could counter his spell. On top of that, he countered the spell with the exact same technique that Misato used to defeat the final monster during the gate disaster from 20 years ago. There's no way for him to deny it anymore. It's obvious that this really is Misato who has somehow come back for revenge. Iwako falls to his knees as he starts to remember everything. He's sure that they sealed him in the dungeon and Misato should definitely be dead, but it looks like he somehow survived. Kyosuke assures him that he was truly sealed and trapped and he was thrown into the depths of despair. Iwako finally accepts that this really is Misato standing in front of him, and the student comes up to his principal with a smile, looking happy that Iwako finally remembers him. Iwako is so shocked that he has to ask again if Kyosuke really is the dead Misato Kyoichiro. The principal doesn't wait for an answer and gets up to challenge him again. He just can't believe that this really is Misato. That man died over 2 decades ago, and for him to be here, that means he somehow returned to this world. Then he starts charging up another spell, this time to bring Kyosuke down for good. He fires more wind-based magic attacks at the student, and Kyosuke easily steps back, avoiding the attack entirely. But Iwako doesn't give him time to rest and sends another massive rock fist crashing down on him. Kyosuke still manages to calmly dodge the attack with no serious urgency. At this point, Iwako is getting even more angry that a little brat is managing to perfectly dodge and avoid all his attacks seemingly without breaking a sweat. He has to gain the upper hand as soon as possible, because it isn't just the fight that is at stake in this battle, but his pride as well. He was non-combatant during his time as a Golden Seeker, and even up until now, the other Pentagram Saints make fun of him for how cowardly he used to be. But he didn't let their taunting keep him down. He has made sure to prove that he isn't weak countless times, and recently he has been developing something that will definitely show off his true strength. Iwako raises his hands and gathers wind and earth magic around him, causing the area around him to darken as magic swirls around him. This spell he's preparing is a secret technique that took 20 years to create. More rocks and wind gather around in the air and swirl around him, building up into a devastating attack. This is the product of him devotedly learning how to dual-use wind and earth magic at the same time. Once the spell is fully activated, he sends it flying towards Kyosuke all at once. Multiple powerful shots of wind and earth fly from his palm, straight towards our MC, and they cut through the air, before striking the ground and causing a huge explosion to completely engulf the student. The large whirlwind of magic settles and Iwako takes a moment to catch his breath. This is his strongest magic spell, and it clearly took a lot of energy from him to cast it. The dust starts to settle, and once again, there is no sign of Kyosuke anywhere within the debris. It looks like Iwako has managed to come out on top this time. Kyosuke isn't countering, which means that he has most likely been taken out by the powerful spell. Iwako bursts out in laughter, happy that he managed to take down the great Masato Kyoichiro on his own. He starts to taunt the presumably dead man, asking whether he really thought that after 20 years, he would still be the same coward that he used to be back in the days of the Golden Seekers. No matter how strong Misato's time attribute is, that's all in the past, and now Iwako is the one who has come out on top. Back then, when large fights would happen, and the Golden Seekers would come out to save the world, all Iwako could do was hide and collect loot drops for the team. But that time was 2 decades ago, and Iwako isn't the same person he used to be. He mocks Kyosuke for underestimating his strength, and forgetting that after 20 years, one's strength will most certainly increase over time. It's only natural that he got stronger after all. Now that he has the feat of finally taking down Kyoichiro, he will make sure that the other Pentagram Saints don't act high and mighty anymore. Now he will begin his reign as the true strongest among the Pentagram Saints. A voice cuts into his delusional ranting and asks him if he's finally done. Kyosuke comes out from the dust, completely untouched, and wipes the extra dirt off of his body. After taking so many attacks, somehow he is completely unharmed. Kyosuke on his part is at least slightly impressed that Iwako has become able to use such powerful magic. That's only to be expected from a hero of this era after all. But now that he has let Iwako have his fun, it's Kyosuke's turn to let his anger out without holding back. Iwako finally understands the difference in strength between them and realizes that the guy he's facing off against right now is a monster. But he can't back out now, especially not after he worked so hard to get to where he is right now. He won't let Masato come in and mess up everything that he has struggled so hard to build. Iwako continues to press on the attack, using another Earth Fist to try and grab Kyosuke, but our MC doesn't react to another iteration of the same repetitive attack. The hand comes down on Kyosuke and slams shut, but he's easily able to dissolve the earth magic with water. Once again, this entire fight is just Iwako barking loudly as Kyosuke waits for him to finish and wear himself out. None of his attacks are going to be enough to defeat our MC, and at this point, he's just wasting his time. Despite that though, he still continues to waste his energy by releasing endless amounts of magic attacks at Kyosuke, even as the student continues to effortlessly dodge and counter everything. At this point, he's just desperately trying to keep our MC away out of fear. But Kyosuke has had enough of this fight. He uses one clean attack to deflect all the magic away before it can get to him. Then he uses another wind attack to push Iwako back, causing him to slam into a tree. Before the older man can get up, Kyosuke approaches with a fire-enhanced fist, ready to bring the man down once and for all. Iwako, realizing that there's nowhere else to go, cowers in front of Kyosuke, desperately begging for forgiveness. Kyosuke stops the fire fist for a moment as the man continues to grovel in front of him. He apologizes for what happened 20 years ago, and continues to beg for his life. Although he seems sorry on the outside, he's banking on Kyosuke's overwhelming empathy and niceness to let him off the hook. If he just begs hard enough, then surely Kyosuke will let him leave with his head still attached. But our MC just tells him to shut up. He can see through the older man's tricks, and knows that this is the same method they used to trap him back then. There's no way he would ever let what happened last time happen again. It looks like Kyosuke is beyond begging at this point, and he prepares to end the fight quickly by reigniting his flaming fist. Iwako gets up and continues to beg, reminding Kyosuke that they used to be friends, but it's already too late, and our MC tells the man that he no longer has the right to call him a friend. Now he has only become a demon of revenge. Then with no hesitation, he slams his flaming fist into the man's face and follows it up with several high-intensity attacks, brutally beating the man within an inch of his life. As Iwako starts to lose consciousness, he starts to realize that he never should have messed with Masato Kyoichiro to begin with. Kyosuke unleashes one last powerful punch, sending the man flying backwards and knocking him unconscious. Despite the brutal beating, he made sure not to kill Iwako. After all, he still has some questions for the man. Those questions are going to have to wait though, because the man is completely knocked out and incapable of speaking. After a while, Iwako wakes up and sees Kyosuke towering over him. The man immediately screams and jumps back in fear, before going back to begging not to be killed. Kyosuke tells him to calm down, assuring him that he won't be dying yet. But in exchange, there are some questions he needs answers to. Kyosuke reaches into the man's pocket and pulls out his phone. The first thing he needs is information about the pentagram saint, Lei Ruoxi. Iwako tries to reach for his phone, but Kyosuke holds it out of reach. He looks through the call logs, and according to his history, he spoke to Lei as recently as today. Kyosuke demands to know what the two of them were talking about. Knowing fully well that he will most likely die if he doesn't cooperate, Iwako breaks and reveals that Lei is supposed to be coming to Japan in 3 days, and she wanted to talk about her upcoming visit. Kyosuke smiles at the information. In 3 days, one of his targets will be coming right to him. That makes everything so much easier and helps him to decide what he's going to do next. With that, he tosses the phone back at Iwako and orders him to treat Lei normally for now. However, he also warns the man not to reveal anything about his identity. Kyosuke placed a special spell on Iwako's heart while he was unconscious. The spell will allow Kyosuke to monitor him, and if he tells her who he is, then in an instant, Iwako's heart will explode in fire. That causes the older man to freeze in panic as his brain struggles to process the information. With nothing left to say, Kyosuke leaves, encouraging Iwako to make sure to keep his promise. The truth is that Kyosuke doesn't actually use that kind of magic, but knowing how cowardly Iwako is, having a bluff like this will work as well as putting the spell on him. He doesn't want to use absolute hypnosis on Iwako, because he wants the man to be in complete despair while still retaining his sense of self. 3 days pass, and an inconspicuous flight is on its way to Japan. Lei Ruoxi is on this flight, and she stares out the window in boredom as one of her bodyguards informs her that they are almost there. The flight attendant goes to the back to announce to the passengers that the plane will be arriving shortly in Japan, but before she can finish her sentence, she screams into the mic as something happens to her. A group of armed men are hijacking the plane, and they hold the flight attendant at gunpoint. One of the men points his gun at the group of unarmed civilians and orders all of them to get on the floor. Lei Ruoxi gets up without hesitation as the men continue to shout, and she walks towards the back of the plane. Then, in an instant, she rushes in front of one of the men and grabs him by the collar, using magic to slam him into the ground before he can react. With one down, she runs to the other one holding the flight attendant hostage and knocks him out with a quick palm strike to the face. In a matter of seconds, both criminals are incapacitated, and the passengers look up to see Lei Ruoxi standing over their unconscious bodies. The plane lands without any further mishaps, and the criminals are escorted away by law enforcement. The owner of the airport arrives personally to thank Lei for her efforts in quickly and silently dealing with the criminals. Lei is just happy that she coincidentally got on the same plane with the hijackers so that she would be there to stop them. Thanks to that, they avoided the plane's reputation getting tarnished. More importantly to her though, it seems like the criminals were using a special type of gun that doesn't get picked up by detectors. Recently there have been many groups armed with gear made from materials they got from dungeons. That's why Lei plans to give her staff some of that special self-defense gear. She puts her hand on the owner's shoulder and directly tells him that she wants the gear that his airport uses. Immediately understanding what she wants from him, he bows his head and assures her that he will make sure it happens. Once they are within the airport and away from the earshot of any eavesdroppers, Lei makes a phone call and tells the people on the other line to release the hijackers. She was the one who planted the hijackers in order to take them out and save the day. By doing so, she helped to seal the deal with the owner of the airport, and even gained some extra publicity as a result. As she leaves the airport, an adoring group of fans are waiting to give their love to her. They all see her as the hero, Lei Ruoxi, and she smiles and waves back at them. She makes it to Tokugo Adventurer Training Academy, and heads to Iwako's office to discuss business with him. She's still curious about the Void Attribute student that Iwako mentioned earlier over the phone. She wants to know if any progress has been while investigating the student. Iwako stutters for a moment but admits that the whole thing was just a false alarm. The bandages and wounds on his face are none of Lei Ruoxi's concern, and she doesn't ask about them. Instead, she gets straight to the point of their discussion now that she has confirmed that the Void Attribute student is nothing but a waste of time. Iwako is still terrified about the spell that Kyosuke claimed to have placed on his heart, and he desperately tries to appear normal so he doesn't attract any unwanted suspicion from her. Lei Ruoxi puts her cup down and gets to the main point of her discussion, which is a new drug that her company is developing. They will need to choose who the next guinea pig for experimentation will be, and she wants to make use of the students in the academy for it. Kyosuke listens to the entire conversation through an earpiece connected to the room. He's disgusted by the things he's hearing on the other side of the call, and that only helps to make his decision for him. The next person that will experience the despair of his revenge will be Lei Ruoxi. Back at his house, Kyosuke watches the news for the day as he thinks through his plan. The news talks about Lei Ruoxi and how she recently arrived in Japan. It also praises her for taking care of the hijackers that tried to take down her plane. Kyosuke is too focused on his plan to care about the news segment. Lei Ruoxi is one of the people that betrayed him 20 years ago. From the research he managed to dig up, he found out that she produces unique weapons using material from dungeons, and it also looks like she has managed to make a fortune from selling them. but judging from the conversation that she had with Iwako earlier, it's likely that she's using the school and its students to do some bad things. On the surface, she portrays herself as a hero, but behind the scenes, she takes advantage of others. This isn't something that Kyosuke can just allow to happen under his nose. He heads to school while trying to figure out what to do. Saying that he wants to have revenge on Lei Ruoxi is one thing, but he doesn't have any idea on how to go about it. The school's security has gotten much tighter since Lei Ruoxi became involved with its affairs, so for now all he can do is investigate the situation and try to find an opening. As he's walking through the halls, Asahi comes over to greet him on her way to class. She notices that he's reading an article about Lei Ruoxi and doesn't hide how much she adores the older woman. While they are talking, she mentions something called the Great Snake of Changshan, which is very popular. The Great Snake of Changshan is a clan that was created by Lei, and they have a bunch of powerful members. It's likely that the men in black suits that were guarding Lei earlier were also from that clan. Many of the students from the school are also planning to join the clan, as well as military organizations. She asks him what his plans are, and initially, he wants to say that there's nothing he would want to do. But then he realizes that using that clan could be a perfect way for him to get closer to Lei. He comes to a decision and thanks Asahi for helping him figure out what he's going to do going forward, then he walks away. Asahi has no idea what he's talking about, but she's happy to help regardless. In Iwako's office, the principal is taking care of some business when his phone rings, causing him to jolt up in fear. He picks it up, and it's Kyosuke on the other line. He needs a favor from Iwako, and it's related to the next time that Lei contacts him. Meanwhile, in a secure research lab, men in lab coats walk around the room while a student kneels on the ground, chained and clearly in distress. The door to the lab opens up, and Lei Ruoxi walks in, mockingly asking the kid how he's feeling. The student begs her to make them stop injecting some weird drug into him. If they continue to do so, then he will surely die. Lei Ruoxi kicks him to the ground and tells him to stop complaining. After all, if the drug tests are successful, then he will end up becoming much stronger as a result. And all he has to do is keep being a little lab rat for them. She snaps her fingers, and two of the researchers come up behind the student and inject him with another dose of the strange medicine. The student tries to beg and move away, but as soon as the drug enters his system, he starts to gargle and scream, before eventually going silent. It looks like this time, the medicine caused him to lose his language ability. It seems like if the lab rat doesn't have at least some skill in magic, then the drug won't work on them. They still need to gather more data, and for that, they will need to get more test subjects. In order to do this, they can hold a recruitment for the Great Snake of Changshan clan, but it's actually a way for them to gather strong people to use as test subjects. She makes a call to Iwako in order to ask him if he remembers their discussion about test subjects before. Right now, she needs someone who is skilled in magic, and she wants him to pick out some students from the academy for her to use. Iwako instead gives her an idea to hold a selection at the academy. That way, they can directly find people who are skilled and bring them in without arousing suspicion. Lei Ruoxi is delighted by the idea and starts planning to hold the selection immediately. Meanwhile, Iwako ends the call and sighs. He has done what Kyosuke asked him to do, so now the ball is in our MC's court. The next day, one of Lei Ruoxi's guards makes an announcement to the students, informing them that the Great Snake of Changshan will be holding a selection exam to find new recruits. The students are excited to get an opportunity to join a popular clan, but Kyosuke simply smiles in satisfaction. It looks like a road to get closer to Lei has finally appeared for him. The students interested in joining the Great Snake of Changshan gather in the school's sports field to take the selection exam to join the clan. Lei Ruoxi's personal guard appears to give a rundown on how the exam will go. As he's listing out the rules for the competition, Kyosuke decides that he has to pass this selection exam so that he can join the Great Snake of Changshan and get close to Lei. His approach to this one has to be different from how he got to Iwako. Before, he tried not to draw any attention to himself. But this time around, he has to catch the attention of Lei's right-hand man, Yang Xinyu, and also the attention of the other examiners. To do that, he decides to show off his power a little bit. After the initial announcements, Kyosuke heads over to the seating area to wait for the real preliminaries to begin. Asahi comes over to meet him when she sees him resting by the stands. She reveals that she also plans to take the exam, much to Kyosuke's displeasure. He would rather not have her getting involved in this whole mess. Asahi herself knows that she doesn't really belong with the other powerful students who are taking the exam, but she has her own reasons for wanting to join despite that. She plans to do her best to make it through the exam, and she wishes Kyosuke good luck as well. The exams begin, and it starts with a test to measure magical power. The guards present an orb, which will be used as a measuring device to visualize the magic power of anyone who touches it. The students are to step forwards one by one and pour their magical power into the orb, and then they will be graded based on what shows. The first group of students aren't that impressive to the examiner giving the grades, and he gives most of them average marks. Then it reaches Kyosuke's turn, and he proudly steps up to the orb to take his test, flashing his card to the examiner as he goes by. The man isn't too impressed at seeing a level 30 void user, and he already doesn't expect much from him. However, his expectations are blown out of the water as Kyosuke unleashes a massive amount of magical power, causing the orb to glow with a bright light that almost blinds everyone in the area. They can barely believe how powerful he is just from the first test. As the light show dies down, Kyosuke calmly walks away as the examiner gives him an S grade for the first test. The next is a magic skills test, which is a student's opportunity to demonstrate what they can do with their attributes. Kyosuke generates a lump of earth, which is a very basic spell that most people can do. But then he follows it up by creating a ball of water, which is already shocking enough. But afterwards, he finishes it up with a ball of fire, lightning, and air, and manages to perfectly hold all of them together at once. Those are all the basic attributes of magic being cast and maintained at the same time, and it's a feat that no one has ever seen before. That's the power of the void attribute, which has been mocked as powerless for much too long. Asahi runs over to congratulate him after his incredible performance, but now it's her turn to prove her worth with her magic. She steps up to a bunch of dried and dead plants and casts light magic on them, instantly reviving them and filling them with vitality. The other students laugh at the fact that all she can do is revive dead plants, which is nothing special, but Kyosuke knows the true value of her skill. She has light attribute magic, which is just as rare as his void attribute, which means she has the potential to become powerful like him. But it'll be difficult for the examiners to evaluate her skills because it's so rare. He feels a bit bad for her, but it's better for her to not get dragged into this mess with him. Unexpectedly, despite Kyosuke's thoughts, Yang Xinyu puts her name down as someone worth trying as a test subject. After all the exams are done, the last stage is a one-on-one duel with the examiners. These examiners are members of the Great Snake of Changshan, so naturally the students have no chance of winning. But this fight isn't about whether the students can win or lose. They will all be evaluated based on how well they fight. Yang Xinyu is well aware that there is no way a student could win against them in the first place. Kyosuke's turn comes up, and he's set to face one of the toughest-looking examiners in the event. He has already made quite a stir during the exam with all the showing off he did earlier, so the teacher is more than happy to face off against him and prove that his results in all the other tests don't mean anything when faced with real combat. Kyosuke humble agrees and says that he is excited to learn a lot from their fight. The examiner is eager to finish this in one hit and creates a large attack from earth magic, firing multiple shots at Kyosuke. The student is immediately able to block it with wind magic, and he counters the attack completely, sending it all flying back at the examiner. He can't believe that a mere student could destroy his magic with one hit. But by the time he looks up, Kyosuke is gone. Then he reappears behind the man with a sharp icicle made from water magic pressed on his throat. The winner is declared immediately, and Kyosuke comes out on top in the exam. Yang Xinyu can't believe that a student would be able to win against someone from his clan, and he starts to wonder just who Kyosuke is. Later that day, he calls Lei Ruoxi to explain the details of the exam. She asks him if he found any interesting test subjects, and he brings up a student in particular that is rather interesting. He passed the exam with an overwhelmingly strong performance, and it seems like he has the void attribute. As soon as Lei Ruoxi hears that, she realizes that the student is most likely the same person that Iwako was looking into. Now that she has heard that, it looks like she has managed to get her hands on a very interesting guinea pig. Mr. Yang begins to announce the names of the ones who are able to clear the selection exam, and the first one who cleared is Asahi Kyosuke. Everyone begins to gossip right away about how tough the exam was. Meanwhile, our boy smirks and thinks that everything went according to what he planned, and he can now get close to Lei. The teacher then announces that the second student who cleared the exam was Asahi Karin. He's surprised to see her clear the exam because he did not assume that having a unique attribute could make her clear it that easily. It seems like Lei is using the students to plan some kind of conspiracy, because there is no reason Asahi would be selected then. She is delighted upon her selection, and he smiles while looking at her, knowing that he will be protecting her under any circumstances. And he will try to achieve his goal while he protects her. A few days after the selection exam, in Lei Company, the ones who passed are appointed and welcomed warmly. They are told that they will be conducting a suitability check before they get them working for the Great Snake of Changshan. Further, he tells them that Lei Ruoxi will be joining them, who will meet them after the suitability check. Till then, he decides to show them around. Our boy thinks to himself that he would like to meet Lei right away, but he cannot be leaving Asahi by herself. Asahi is amused by it being such a big building. She is overjoyed for being able to join the Great Snake of Changshan. It makes him wonder why she wants to join the Great Snake of Changshan. She explains that her mother is in the hospital and she is unable to afford the medical expenses. He realizes that she didn't do it for him, but she did it for her mom. After hearing that reason, he is more motivated to protect her. After a while, they reach the basement where there is a testing facility. He looks around, and suddenly he hears a voice. It is Lei, who is ordering the basement to be shut off. While the others panic, he stays calm, as he observes that they have no intention of letting anyone escape. The students nervously ask the meaning behind this. Mr. Yang in the suit tells them to shut their mouths because now they will be conducting the suitability check. They will be testing a new drug that they have been secretly developing on them. The drug has been made from the ingredients which have been gathered in dungeons, and can again dramatically enhance their physical abilities and magic powers. The two students begin to panic, knowing that the outcome wouldn't be good. Then the protagonist wonders if the drugs have any side effects, to which Mr. Yang says that it would be easier to show him. Then a clip plays on the nearby TV, and a guy is being forced to get the drug injected, and it shows that he lies on the ground with his mouth foaming. Looking at the footage, the students begin to panic and immediately get defensive. Mr. Yang explains that the person who got injected with the drug was incompatible with the new drug, hence the sudden side effect, and wonders if they have any confusion left anymore. It is like asking for a death wish. Two students have their guards up, knowing that they won't be allowing something like that to happen to them, and instantly raise their magic powers. They begin to fight Mr. Yang while the protagonist tells Asahi to stay by his side, no matter what. Meanwhile, the shady guy's wrists suddenly get a lot more powerful, and he punches the two students in the stomach, sending them flying on the ground. He mocks the students, saying that the number of samples has now decreased, and turns to Asahi, saying that they will be starting with her now. She is the one who has the light attribute, so they are excited to see the results of the experiment about to be conducted on her. Mr. Yang prepares the needle and begins to step near Asahi, but our hero steps in front of her to defend her. Mr. Yang gets mad, wondering what the aim of our boy is, to which he explains that he is only trying to keep filthy people like him away from Asahi. Mr. Yang orders one of the guards to restrain the protagonist, but as soon as he lifts his fist to punch him, he gets attacked by the boy, making him look like a pig. All of the guards present there are shaken by the sudden attack, and before they could even prepare to defend themselves, our boy begins to knock them down one by one with the speed of light. The shady guy begins to sweat, realizing that the protagonist was able to take down all the people in just one hit. After that, our hero turns to him, telling him that he is going to be the next guinea pig. Mr. Yang tries to grab Asahi so he stays safe from the protagonist, but before he could even touch her, our boy reaches him, calmly stating that he mentioned before, he won't be letting a filthy man like him near her, while firmly holding his hand by the wrist. Somehow, Mr. Yang manages to get his fist free, but he is scared, knowing that a regular student shouldn't be able to overpower them like that. But before our boy makes him meet his end, he tells him to brace himself. The protagonist warns Asahi to stay behind him, and she stutters out how grateful she is. She realizes how great the protagonist is, and she couldn't even see the moves he made earlier because of his speed. She already knew he had gained more strength, but she didn't expect it to be on this level. Mr. Yang tries to break Kyosuke's spirit by telling him not to get too cocky, but our boy has a question. He knows that the students are being used as their lab rats, so why are they doing that? Mr. Yang explains that the reason behind it is quite simple because the ones who follow Miss Lei can receive her blessings. When the development of their drug is completed, she will be gaining more strength. Hearing that, our boy gets mad, because Mr. Yang literally tried to justify inhumane experiments. The shady guy acts ruthless, saying that they use whatever is available to them, and the students should consider this as an honor to be serving as guinea pigs for them. Our boy is drawn to the flashback where Asahi was telling him about the high medical bills, so getting selected into it was a big deal for her. The evil guy points at Asahi, saying that she must be really happy to become a part of their team. But instantly, our boy shuts him up and releases his magical energy. Seeing the intensity of it, the evil guy is taken aback, knowing he is going to be screwed. The hero angrily wonders what they even think of themselves as, because these people are nothing but trash which experiments on people and does not understand how others feel. Asahi is amused by his energy, and Mr. Yang feels a dense pressure because of the protagonist's energy, being unable to believe that this guy is just a student. He tries to cover it up, saying that he would remind him of his place, but he doesn't want to discourage him. Then he offers to hand over Asahi to him, and he can directly work under Miss Lei, as she might make him an executive as well. It makes our boy more mad, and he tells him to shut up because people like him don't deserve any forgiveness. Mr. Yang loosens his tie, warning that our boy will be regretting this decision, and begins to power up. The protagonist realizes that he is using body-strengthening magic. The opening makes it clear that the body-strengthening magic will be mixed with his martial arts, and it will be difficult for the protagonist to beat him up. Mr. Yang then challenges our boy to attack him, launching the first attack by himself with a powerful punch. But swiftly, our guy dodges it, and the punch lands on the ground, cracking the ground nearby. Asahi is shaken when she sees the outcome of the punch. Mr. Yang gets up, clearly impressed that the protagonist was able to dodge that punch. Meanwhile, the protagonist observed the body-strengthening magic to be really strong. With that said, the opponent begins to launch another attack, urging our hero to face it. Our guy begins to concentrate and turns it into an image, making Mr. Yang wonder what he is plotting. Before his punch could land on our boy, he opens the void, completely dodging the punch, making it hard to believe that a mere student has the same power as him, probably even stronger. With a smirk on his face, our hero thanks Mr. Yang for the body-strengthening magic since he can use it now. Finally, our boy strikes back and lands his fist on Mr. Yang's stomach, sending him flying into the air. The evil brat is unable to believe what just happened and who the protagonist actually is behind the cover of a student. Meanwhile, our boy turns to Asahi, who is thanking him for saving her life, while he wonders if she is okay. The fallen students get up, and our boy tells them that he will be opening a way for them and urges them to get out as soon as they can. The students wonder where he will be going. Our boy breaks the wall, making a path, answering that he has some business to look after. On the other hand, Miss Lei is informed about the emergency. She is told that Mr. Yang got screwed by the students, and the students managed to escape. Instantly, she turns back to her phone, where she is informed that an incredibly strong guy is headed towards her. Hearing that, she begins to sweat, but before she could even process what is going on, our boy shows up in front of her. She tries to confront him but gets cut off mid-sentence. He calmly explains that he's only here for one reason, and that is to pay her back for what she did 2 decades ago. Hearing about a debt that was about 20 years ago, she demands an explanation, to which he walks near her, saying that he could spell it all out to her word by word. He narrates that ever since the SSS rank dungeon 2 decades ago, the Pentagram Saints were hailed as heroes. Further, he makes her assume that there was a certain man's conspiracy that was stopped that day. She cuts him off, saying that a student like him knows nothing about anything, and he should just stop giving her a history lecture. He doesn't stop but further confronts her, saying that the Pentagram Saints are now leaders across every major field in the world. She defends them, saying that they are the ones who removed all the evil. He stares at her angrily, knowing that statement is not the truth. Suddenly, she senses an intense change in his aura. He further confronts her that she used her comrades' sacrifices to steal the rewards and build her own legacy. Still to this day, she steps on the effort of the ones who always supported her by her side. She tries to brush off these details as mere conspiracy theories and nothing else. He strictly urges that he knows this is not just a conspiracy, but he knows what she had done before. She pushed her comrades into the gate. Hearing that, her soul leaves her body and she begins to sweat, wondering why a random student knows about that. He wonders if she really doesn't know who he really is, so he decides to introduce himself once again. His name is Misato Kyoichiro. Hearing that name, she yells that it's literally impossible, but he calmly keeps saying that it happened and that he used the same power which made her call him a monster once. She is unable to believe that Kyoichiro is alive, to which he informs her that he also knows what the Ray Company has been doing in secret, including the inhumane things. He then threatens her that if he reveals that, her reputation will be gone. She angrily screams at him not to mess with her, but he keeps stepping forward, knowing that he should be the one saying that. With an insane amount of aura, he stands next to her, confronting what she did 20 years ago, trampling on the hopes of a girl who gave it all. He could never forgive her for that. She sits back and relaxes, saying that he is not in the same body anymore. But now, when she knows who he really is, she plans to make him regret it, and grabs her sword quickly enough that a fight emerges, ruining the entire office room. She scoffs, informing him that the weapon she is holding contains the power developed by her company, which has been gathered from dungeon materials, making it far tougher than any other metal to exist. Then she plans to show him how sharp the thing actually is, and begins to launch attacks at him, but he manages to dodge all of them with precision. She tries to mock him, saying that it looks like he is only a master at dodging attacks, but she definitely feels something strange since none of her attacks are actually landing. He observes after he sees her body movements that she has been too busy in the corporate world to the point that her moves have gotten sloppy, and she is no better than Iwako now. She angrily yells at him to cut with the bullshit and attacks him with the sword, which she thinks ended up hitting him, giving her partial pleasure. What she didn't expect was that he managed to dodge that attack to stand in another corner of the room. She realizes that he used void magic, as she has never heard of it taking effect like this. So now she decides to go all in an attempt to end his life with her next move, enough to shut up his running mouth. Loading up her fire attribute, she attacks him, but he manages to hold the sword as if he just held a leaf. It is getting hard for her to believe, and she begins to shiver knowing that she is also screwed. He realizes that her powers have rusted over time, and she has gotten worse than she was 20 years ago, which he will be using to his advantage. She silently begins to walk away, making him wonder where she is going, and she pulls out an injection filled with red drug and she seems eager to inject it within her body. Then, the opponent undergoes a transformation, boosting her aura insanely. As she goes through her transformation, Lei is pretty sure that she won't lose anymore. Although our boy finds it boring that she's trying to intimidate him by using some enhancement drugs, which probably is the easy way out as she thinks of it as. She's urging him not to underestimate her since this drug took a whole lot of money and time to be created. She explains that it was made from materials that were only found deep within the dungeons, and then years were spent refining the serum. Ever since she had the taste of this power 20 years ago, she has been going insane trying to reach that domain somehow. With an evil smile, she acknowledges that she has now found the power that surpasses almost everything, and she is thankful to him for it, for being able to find that power. He finds her attitude to be lowly, because she is just bragging about it while relying solely on a drug. She can't believe what he just uttered nonchalantly. Without wasting a second, he apologizes for interrupting her monologue because he needs to put an end to this thing and begins to lean forward to attack her. She is prepared for the strike, and just that today they are going to find out who is the actual strong one and who is the weakling. As they clash into each other, she yells at him to brace himself before she lands a punch on him. He swiftly dodges the punch, and the punch lands on a wall, making a hole in it. She turns back towards him, telling him that this drug is the fruit of her extensive research, so she is going to make sure that he meets God once again by her hands. With that said, she charges up another attack of hers, but she is given an illusion that she managed to defeat him. Before she could even celebrate it, she hears his voice, Then she looks at her foot, which is bleeding. Calmly, our boy explains, while she is confused, that he learned how to use this body enhancement magic because of the goons she was keeping as her pets. While she is on the ground, he explains that even if her drug was a bit impressive, all it did was just enhance skills a little bit. She's angry as he is mocking her research work, but soon he shuts her up because all she did was climb over people and think of that as progress. Being unable to hear such vile things about herself, she begins to throw an attack on him, but he firmly holds her hand, making her unable to move. She is baffled that she is unable to use her power in front of our boy because his strength has increased by levels. He angrily walks off, knowing that she is defeated because that was never real power to begin with, but more like testosterone shots injected for a little boost. Outside the building, he is reunited with Asahi, and they are happy to see each other completely all right. There is a whole crew of reporters outside the building, looking at the building and broadcasting that the Lei company was attacked. Asahi wonders if it is his doing, and he just shrugs his shoulders. The reporters broadcast that the Lei company has been doing human experiments, but now they have lost everything, putting an end to this horrendous era. Asahi turns to our boy, being grateful that he was there with her, or else she would be used as a lab rat in that place. As she thanks our boy, he smiles, because helping people was the one thing that made him the happiest. The TV channel broadcasts the crimes of Lei Ruoxi, conducting illegal human experiments in a secret lab underground owned by her of the Pentagram Saints. This was only discovered after Lei Ruoxi got attacked by an unknown person. The reporter further reports the signs of memory disturbance in Lei, while the attacker's identity is still not found. Our boy Masato wonders how the other heroes would react, and suddenly the news channel interrupts with the breaking news that Nathaniel of the Pentagram Saints has issued a public statement. Hearing Nathaniel's name, he is shaken. On behalf of the Pentagram Saints, he delivers an urgent message to them. He expresses his devastation towards the recent incident, and as her comrades, they feel extremely shameful that they did not notice Lei's lean towards darkness. Hearing that statement makes our boy mad because the Pentagram Saints are acting like they were unaware of the entire thing. They haven't changed from the way they acted 20 years ago, making him realize that they haven't changed even slightly, and they lie with a straight face to protect their status as heroes. He comes down to the thought that people like Asahi and him weren't even sacrifices to them, but just some stepping stones. He realizes that there is a high possibility that Nathaniel led the charge to get our boy exiled. But since he was always a calculative guy, he used to be all cautious, and nobody knows where he is right now. He pulls out his phone and begins to use it. On the other hand, the people of the Pentagram Council connect to each other and begin the meeting, but without Lei this time. The meeting is almost concluded, and Claudia can't fathom that Lei has been conducting illegal experiments. That makes the others mad too, since she has brought shame upon the honor of the proud Pentagram Saints. Nathaniel suggests that all of those experiments were done by her own initiative all by herself, and the rest of them had no knowledge about this thing at all. Nathaniel basically is being rational and just spinning the blame on her by abandoning her. Iwako doesn't know about Claudia or Ingolf, but he is sure that Nathaniel knew about the inhumane experiments. So abandoning her that easily is confusing to him, but what is more important to him is that he has to follow his instructions. Claudia is curious who the assailant could be, and Iwako lifts the letter which is sealed and explains that it arrived at the academy from the person who attacked Lei. Nathaniel urges Iwako to read the letter to them, and Iwako opens it to read it. It says, "I have returned to the present world from inside of the gate and will deal with all of you, so just you wait. Misato Kyoichiro." Hearing that, the four of them almost shat their pants. Claudia wonders if someone is impersonating him, to which Nathaniel knows that it is Kyoichiro for sure because he mentioned being inside the gate. As Claudia is panicking, Ingolf assures her that even if he is back, all they have to do is bring him down again. Nathaniel urges that they will do what Ingolf said, and there is no need for them to do anything anymore, but they still want to observe how the protagonist is going to act. Later at night, Ingolf looks outside the window, knowing he could never forgive our protagonist. Meanwhile, Iwako is on the phone with our boy and saying that he did what he was told, which makes our boy think that he was right about Nathaniel, who is being calculative and cautious as always. But he knows that they aren't safe for long after they have realized that he has returned. The first step of his plan is to strike those who know his whereabouts. So he urges Iwako to make the next move. He panickingly asks what they should do next, and our boy orders arrangements for him to be transferred to an academy related to Ingolf. Iwako realizes that he will be going after Ingolf next, so it should be easy with the short-term overseas student program. Although Iwako warns him that he is not like him or Lei, and he won't be able to find any shady rumors about Ingolf. But our boy still wants to see his face and leaves the formalities to Iwako. He walks out to the balcony, even if there are no rumors about Ingolf. He still betrayed him 2 decades ago, which is still as infuriating. Later on, our boy steps in Germany, with a verified connection between the country's academy and Ingolf. So now he will use the German academy to get closer to him, and he makes his way to the academy. He overhears a conversation, and then automatically translates it in his head with his skill. It turns out that the 2 men were bothering the girl, asking her to hang out with them while she kept saying no because she thinks of them as thugs. After the last thing she said, they both got mad at her, making sure that they would punish her for that, and began to grab her. The protagonist intervenes, urging them to leave her alone, while the two men angrily turn towards him, wondering who he is. Once again, he firmly tells them to leave her alone, to which the guys get mad and instantly start using their magic attributes to attack him. But our boy is able to defend himself against those attacks, and just by one hit, he is able to send them flying to the ground, making everyone astonished near him. The same douchebag who was acting tough earlier ran away with his friends after watching Misato's overwhelming strength. As for the girl, she thanks him for saving her life. Our boy doesn't really bother about that, except for the crowd that is looming around them taking videos of the drama. He recommends they head out of here, so he goes on ahead with the girl tailing him from behind. She recalls her last experience being saved by someone else, and it brings her great nostalgia. After a little while of walking, she hesitates to ask him a question. Once again, she offers her gratitude for Misato stepping up to save her life. It's only because of his involvement that things didn't turn out worse for her. Like last time, he tells her that it's not a bother, but now he has also confirmed that this girl is extremely self-conscious. When he glances at her, it makes him feel he's seen her face somewhere before. The girl judges his uniform and asks if he's a Japanese student by chance, to which he immediately agrees. Misato shares that he got here for a short exchange program overseas, and that he's headed his way to the academy. Returning the favor for earlier, the girl decides to escort him on his way to the academy, something that Misato appreciates. As they're moving along, Misato learns that this girl loves traveling the world, though she also brings up her own personal situation aside from traveling. Now, our boy interestingly deduces how this girl looks similar to him in age, so it's very brave to find her all alone traveling the world. He even asks her if it's dangerous to travel like that, because what happened earlier could happen a lot elsewhere. But she brushes it off, acting like she's got a spell or two up her sleeve to protect her in those situations, which really surprises our boy because she clearly didn't do anything earlier. Changing topics, she brings up the fact that he's headed for the training academy. Then she shares how the Lansing School is exceptionally famous for its meritocratic system, which means all of the students are governed under a class ranking system. It's a hierarchy of power, and there's even a point system to reward students with achievements. From the looks of things, our boy realizes that this German school takes meritocracy even more seriously than his own damn country. From the information he received from Iwako, Lord Ingolf supposedly acts like an instructor for the experienced upper-class students. This means that the only way to get closer to bumping into him is if he climbs the ladder, shocking the school with his power. Then again, our boy thinks that this is the perfect opportunity, a new challenge for him to overcome. Outside of his headspace, the girl points out to the beautiful Lansing Training Academy spanning across the horizon. Misato thanks her for being a great help and heads off as the two bid farewell. As he leaves, she introduces herself as Shirato Sayuki, so he returns the favor by introducing himself as Kyosuke's identity. But the moment she hears that name, Shirato is genuinely stunned. She takes a minute to process his name, before revealing that it sounds similar to someone she knows. Without pursuing the topic, she turns around and bids him good luck for the academy experience. While she's leaving, our boy is left with a strange impression of Shirato, as if he knows her from somewhere. But for now, his main focus is to conquer the academy before his eyes. In the next scene, Misato is seen navigating the large campus when suddenly, a dipshit version of Shiru Emiya from the Fate franchise calls out to him, berating him for being a Japanese transfer student. Misato mocks him by calling him a wannabe delinquent loser, which flusters him. Provoked, the guy steps down from his high ground, pointing out how rare it is for Japanese students to make transfers to this academy. At the same time, he considers Misato an NPC like all the others, nothing special. In fact, he even goes up to his face to emphasize how this academy is going to give his Japanese ass a reality check. Meanwhile, our boy is already starting to feel annoyed on the first day, being unable to escape from one douchebag after another. He now knows what Shirato meant with her explanation, and senses that this guy is trying to provoke him for a duel. Accepting the challenge, he puts his bag on the ground, ready to rumble in an actual fight. The guy takes some distance, happy to see that Misato caught on quickly to his challenge, and then he crops up an ability related to earth magic, hovering rocks around him. Bro thinks he's Walmart Gaara from Naruto or some shit. Anyway, his tiny rocks are shot into Misato's direction with the intention of harming him, I guess, but for our boy, he just gently swipes them away, literally turning them into dust. All of a sudden, this delinquent is now a confused puppy who didn't even process what happened. Formulating magic in his hands, our boy praises his attempt and mocks him for having extremely weak firepower. Deciding to show him what it really means to use earth magic, Misato offers a return gift straight in his direction. He shoots up a single boulder, one so fast that it launches right past the redhead dumbass and obliterates the wall behind him with an explosive finish. Misato intentionally missed, a warning shot for him to humble Lil Bro, who is now quivering like a puppy realizing he could have been dead meat just now. All of a sudden, Bro is starting to question if he challenged God by accident. By the way, the same girl from earlier is seen sharing a call with Lady Claudia. She's already reading up on our boy's files as her target, and even confirmed swift contact with him. Her real goal is to continue observing him from a distance, meaning she's a spy and all of that earlier act was a performance. Going back to Misato's journey at the academy, he finally registers himself with proper documents. Now that he's got his identification card, he can easily tap into local dungeons to further his goals. Interestingly, when he taps the use of his Duolingo auto-translation ability, he finds different details on the card. This card actually has points mentioned on it, which means it auto-tracks dungeon raids and performance points. The good thing is that he doesn't have classes for today, so our boy's thrilled to challenge the local dungeons of Germany to get a real good feeling of what they're like. While he's planning all of this, the redhead loser from earlier is busy tailing him in secret. Anyway, in the next scene, our boy stands before a dungeon gate, internalizing how it's necessary for him to achieve special class rank status before he can make any moves against Ingolf. He goes inside the dimensional space with the goal of crushing enough points in the upper level dungeons to help him achieve his goals. Misato glances at the surrounding environment and realizes it's a setting for ruins. But his main subject of curiosity are the different kinds of monsters that he'll have to face off against. Some of them are already headed his way. These behemoth undead boneheads are actually quite powerful, as Misato didn't even encounter this version of them back in Japan. The good thing is that he's got experience backing him up, knowing their weak spots in advance. So he crops up his flames, prepared for anything. The first bonehead prepares its huge battle axe before lunging it forward with an epic smash, an attack that Misato casually evades. Processing his thoughts, he knows that the undead monsters are weak to both strong impact and fire magic. Keeping those two factors in mind, he covers his arm full of flames and straight up gives the corpse a jab to remember. With a single hit, the monster is neutralized and killed on the spot. Its friends are seriously confused how easily their comrade went down with a single attack. As for Misato, bro's out here for all the smoke and invites them to be his next guest. Taking his time, he mops the floor with the rest of the undead creatures and reaches the final chamber where the boss awaits him. Misato enters inside, gazing up at the hovering Reaper of Death, one commanding the spirits of the undead. The boss carries an overwhelming presence, so in order to play it safe, our boy conjures his flames again and checks it out with a fireball attack from a distance. This is the surest way to tell how the creature will react to its weakness. Instantly, the boss retaliates with its staff, powering a purple beam straight through the fireball, annihilating it immediately. This impresses Misato, who is surprised that his fireball was cancelled out by the creature, adding credibility to its status as a boss. The undead mage powers its staff again, releasing a similar focused beam to attack our boy. Misato jumps out of the way, avoiding the textured vaporizing acid. It's a good thing he didn't block it head on, because it seems that every hit ends up with its target melting without question. Again, it shows that this boss is pretty good, but even then, bro can actually use this ability and turn it around to his advantage. Misato decides to avail the opportunity by focusing his magic around his feet, boosting his lunging speed with wind magic. The next time when the boss monster spams him with blasts, he dashes and cuts between them, instantly popping right before its eyes, stunning the creature. Copying the same trick that the boss used earlier, Misato wonders how this guy will react after being hit by its own spell. So he smashes the purple ball of acid straight up in its face, grilling the creature alive. Even as an undead monster, the creature screams, and ultimately withers away, unleashing its own destruction. Our boy wraps up things with an easy finish, satisfied with how he handled that situation. Even though it's a good spell at the high level, he couldn't really reproduce it to perfection. This shows him that he still needs to refine his current level for his void magic. But what's even more important is that he takes care of the idiot who keeps following him. Misato calls out to his stalker to come out already, and Budget Shiru does exactly that, surprised that he took notice. He apologizes for watching all his fights, this time adopting a much nicer tone. Misato misunderstands the situation and actually thinks this idiot has the confidence to come here for a second fight. But for some reason, he senses that something is wrong. This guy's got a much more sinister aura than he had last time, as if he's hiding his real power. The guy actually intends to face him for a rematch, so it definitely makes it seem like bro's about to pull something really suspicious. The unprepared Misato is so baffled that he even readies himself to fight, questioning if he's up against yet another enhancer like Lei because that would make it a tough fight. Right as he's going through all the possibilities, bro ends kneeling before him and starts begging our boy to take him as his disciple. Yeah, dude bro is confused as shit now. He doesn't even know what this idiot is doing, or why he's got a red cup in his hand. This man rises and reveals his Japanese Dogeza sake cup, knowing that they culturally offer them to others to show respect. And now our boy is absolutely convinced that this dude is stupid as hell. The redhead admits being thrilled with Misato's godlike strength, which is why he begs him to teach him magic. He even watched the insane fight between him and the boss monster, and confesses how much of an idiot he was to challenge someone like him to a duel. Honestly, Misato is done with everything and can't catch a break at all. But right as they're having this low-stakes conversation, he suddenly senses something and grabs this dude. Bro thinks he's been chosen when in reality the ground erupts inside the chamber. A creature even more sinister and powerful than the undead mage pops out, revealing itself to be the true hidden final boss of the dungeon. This thing looks so damn sick and could easily pass up for being a Dark Souls boss. Hesitating, the redhead remembers something crucial. He's actually seen this terrifying monstrosity in the manual books, recalling it as the Skull Dragon, a creature capable of obliterating villages all on its own. People reported that even someone as powerful as Lord Ingolf barely managed to beat the dragon with a slim margin. But the big question is what this thing is doing inside one of the dungeons. Misato now has a proper understanding of the situation and faces the Skull Dragon, causing this guy to panic in fear because this isn't a monster he can challenge so easily. While this dude is pussying out like a bitch, Misato assures him that the kid's got his facts wrong, because Lord Ingolf wasn't the one who killed the Skull Dragon back then, basically implying that our boy has already defeated this thing in the past. But he does understand how the Golden Seekers, or the Pentagram Saints, truly thought how troublesome it would be to give Misato all the credit as the actual slayer. Instead, they turned that story into personal fame and gave Ingolf all the glory, which again shows that they're a bunch of lunatic cowards. That's why our boy is unafraid of killing this thing a second time, as the Skull Dragon whips itself for the fight. The mighty beast slams the ground, sending shockwaves from the impact. Meanwhile, our boy hastens to dodge the force and gains a second realization. Turns out that this version of the Skull Dragon is even more overpowered than the one he slimed 20 years ago. At the same time, this man is the GOAT, so he lunges right in full speed, not giving a single flying fuck about how strong the Lizard of Bones is. After taking off in the air, Misato whips out a heavy punch imbued with his flame magic and slams it full against the creature's head, shattering the creature's very skull. Yes, that one single hit just now obliterates its head to pieces, allowing our boy to return back safely. His #1 fan is out here glazing his master like a D1 simp, as if he's watching Kobe Bryant unleash a perfect game. But despite all that, our boy reminds the idiot that the fight's not over. Sure, the dragon's head exploded, but it also pops right back on like nothing even happened. Misato seems unfazed while the redhead is stupefied with the creature's instant regeneration ability. Our boy shares how the Skull Dragon's stamina is actually the creature's strongest stat among high-level monsters. This means that landing a few hits wasn't enough, as it would keep regenerating again and again. From the looks of things, Misato knows that this dragon is even more annoying to take down than last time, so he narrows down his next strategy for a more effective finish. His simp, on the other hand, is starting to wonder what he's going to do, because there's barely anything an adventurer could do against this type of monster. The Skull Dragon releases a deafening roar, unleashing shockwaves again, before whipping its spiky bone tail and swiping horizontally. It's only thanks to Misato that both of them manage to duck right in time. But this problematic tail returns for round 2 like a clingy girlfriend. Luckily, our boy can easily speed blitzing it before he gets hit, and his evasive maneuvers impress the redhead, but it still doesn't answer how he's going to beat the monster. Meanwhile, Misato is waiting for the perfect moment, sharpening his visualization skills, gathering void magic in the palm of his hands. As long as he can hone the image to perfection, he can dish out a powerful attack. The Skull Dragon isn't in the mood to play around and goes up right in our boy's face. Then this thing releases a fucking hyper beam like that one scene from Rayquaza vs. Deoxys movie, eviscerating Misato from his position. The loser fears for his master's life, but to his shock, the goat has the dragon on a leash. Grabbing its jaw, he commands control of water magic, creating ripples and officially declaring the end for the beast. The spirals of water start to engulf the creature, swallowing the dragon's body. And then that same shape crystallizes into ice, freezing the monster's head alongside its entire body. Now, it was immobile, an excellent way to take care of a practically undying high-level monster. This 300 IQ play stuns his simp, who watches his master aura farming with a cool-ass pose after beating the monster. In the next scene, they're outside the dungeon as he runs up to his master. Misato is already fed up with this guy's overly polite tone that he offers as respect. Anyway, Misato is currently busy eyeing down his ID card, wondering about how many dungeon points he racked up from a single run. It's here that he learns about Mateo's name and directly asks him about the number of points that affect one's rank. Mateo explains that roughly each 10,000 points are enough to break the class pyramid. This means that our boy has to collect a minimum of 30,000 points to clear his way into the special class category. The problem with dungeon points is that they don't add anything based on performance, which means the Skull Dragon he just defeated isn't even going to be considered in Misato's evaluation. Just now, he acquired 500 points only from that run, which means he has to attempt 600 freaking raids just to get into special class. It's a chore that he didn't expect would take him so long. Then again, his goals are already pretty high. Mateo is pretty impressed with his master's ambition, and actually reveals a convenient path to stack up points. Our boy towers over him with 100% of his interest, demanding that Mateo spill the beans. He responds by sharing the details of the Sublime Heaven Festival, an event that will be held in a month. It's a special occasion where students face each other through challenges. Here's the neat part. The winner of the festival is rewarded with 20,000 points off the bat. Considering how long it takes to raid dungeons, even Misato sees how much benefit he's getting by taking part in the festival, because then he'll be able to reach Ingolf with a single move. Gathering his resolve, he declares his new goal of acquiring first place at the festival. 1 month ended up zooming right past them, and the day of the festival came to be. Here, the students were all gathered up to participate. Mateo felt really excited about the festival while our boy collected his thoughts. This time, his objective is to crack enough points on each challenge to gain the top 1 spot. This is the surest path for him to gain one step closer to the treacherous ball of filth who betrayed him 20 years ago. The examiner announces the simplified mission, with the objective of claiming the gemstone at the top of the tower. They don't care what kind of method the students used, even allowing them to fight dirty. All they cared about is the kind of strength these students were willing to display to get to the very top. Of course, Misato thinks it's something an academy like this would always prioritize anyway, and he likes it too. Meanwhile, Mateo is warming up, thrilled to aim for the top one spot together with him. Well, our boy only ended up tag teaming with him because the festival requires a duo to participate. The good thing is that he had the perfect dude at his disposal who was ready to follow his every word. Anyway, a certain girl comes up to meet Misato, even though he is shocked to find her here. Apparently, she's come here with the excuse of watching him shine on the battlefield. Mateo is simping for the girl, wondering if he's his master's girlfriend, causing Misato to whip his ass out in the open. The students are suddenly drawn to something over at the big screen. Among the spectators for the festival is Lord Ingolf himself, and just his presence sends a chill down Misato's spine. The other examiners are happy to have him at the festival, but it seems that he's coincidentally here to watch the fun, to see if there's a real golden egg hiding among the young talents. While Misato is in the mood to murder him right here, Shirato behind him looks pleased. Anyway, the students are quickly told to enter the tower, so they step right in. From the inside, the place looks huge, spiraling its way to the top. Mateo thinks they should get going immediately, but right as the students are getting ready, a monster explodes out of nowhere, coming up to pose as their first obstacle. The green wolf is a welcome gift for the students, but it's only expected of the academy to release the creatures right away. Mateo is searching for a strategy, but his master uses Batman's disappearing technique and blazes his fist across the creature's face, demolishing it in a single hit. He looks back at the idiot and reminds him that they need to go fast. Meanwhile, the rest of the students are stunned by his performance. The audience watching outside, including Ingolf, are stunned by the Japanese transfer student. They can't fathom how this guy one-shot the beast with no difficulty. Even Shirato admits that she always had high expectations of him. As the stages progress, Mateo cleans up a monster on his own, showing that he's holding his ground quite well. In reality, Misato is speedrunning this shit, and bro can't keep up with him at all. They climb their way full speed, when suddenly another obstacle appears. This time, it's not the workings of a monster, but some other students playing dirty and destroying the path. They want to stop Misato's climb, not even caring about the dirty tactics used. In fact, they even trash-talk Mateo for being so down below them that they can't even hear his ass. As they dash away, Mateo is panicking and wonders what they'll do next. But our boy's chilling. He already knows that it's easy as hell to fly over to the other side. Before Mateo can even process his words, bro grabs him and shoots up with tremendous speed using his wind magic. As time passed, the lunatics from earlier ended up racing to the final chamber at last. This duo thinks the tower was easy as hell, and they're so happy about beating the transfer kid too. While they're sucking each other off, the goat himself arrives to humble them. Misato apologizes for revealing the disappointing reality that they did a shitty job when it came to slowing him down. Even Mateo, who is totally busted from the climb, returns the trash talk like that one guy who keeps dying in Valorant and spams easy in the chat. Anyway, the delinquents each prepare their spells to crush them here and now, this time making sure they win. But their fate has already been sealed. This man speed blitzes them like Minato the Yellow Flash, beating them within seconds. They kiss the floor before Mateo, who's bricked up just watching his master fight at such an incredible speed. It's time for them to confront the boss of the tower, so Misato cracks the door open. They watch the gemstone hovering on a goblet. Luckily, they're the first ones to have come here. But Misato understands that the game isn't over yet. Right then, a bunch of guardian knights start spawning from under the ground, protecting the gemstone as its last line of defense. Even the examiners rise up in confusion, questioning where the hell these knights came from as they're not intended to be part of the program. Lord Ingolf has the biggest smirk on his face, implying this dude tampered with the exam, wondering if the fated duo can overcome this final trial. The knights surround them from every direction, and it's looking like real bad news now. Mateo is scared while Misato realizes that these creatures aren't humans at all, meaning there's some kind of spell being used to manipulate so many of them at the same time. The only person who is capable of using such a magic is none other than Ingolf himself, which means he's directly manipulating the events. Hesitant, the examiner begs to know if this is Ingolf's own magic, to which he confirms an agreement. This guy doesn't care at all, and he thinks that the duo getting such a fast speedrun would make things boring. The examiner believes he's quite cruel for doing that, but Ingolf argues that in order to become a great mage, dealing with these monsters would be nothing to such talents. Even then, no ordinary student would be able to clear a fleet of knights like his own, so the real question is how these two are going to do that. With his eyes glued to the screen, Ingolf wonders what will happen next. Back to the fight, Mateo is quaking like a bitch, totally normal behavior from him. Our boy bluntly states that they're gonna have to beat the knights in order to get the gemstone, but then again, beating these many knights seems like an impossible task, especially with their formidable strength. Sure, the task looks tough, but Masato is hell-bent on achieving his goals and doesn't consider it a huge deal. Hearing his master's confident resolve fuels Mateo's personal conviction, so he's ready to provide any cover needed. While he's yapping, Bro totally forgets about the knight flanking him from behind, and nearly gets his damn head chopped off with a swing. One of the knights jumps at Masato, causing our boy to provoke the use of body enhancement magic, vastly improving his strength and catching the sword with just 2 of his fingers. Bro thinks he's Super Saiyan Goku fighting off Trunks. Concentrating on a fire fist, he uppercuts the first knight, staggering everyone's expectations. They can't believe this man is throwing straight hands at every opponent. Next, Misato slams the same knight with a powerful fist, knocking him into the others as if they were bowling pins. Just 2 hits from him have already obliterated a bunch of knights, while Princess Mateo is simping for him again. Watching this fight, Ingolf finds himself intrigued with the Japanese student's incredible command over magic, and wonders if he'll single-handedly take down all the knights. Ingolf conjures a second summoning of the knights, assuring that it won't be an easy task. The knights multiplied at an even faster rate this time, causing Mateo to wonder just what kind of plans the examiners even have at this point. No student should be able to clear the tower like this, and even Shirato from the spectators thinks it's going to be impossible to clear this kind of fleet. She's curious how he'll handle such a formation, and meditates on his next move. The first knight comes swooping with a heavy axe swing. Misato dodges using enhancement and scans the number of enemies. With 30 formidable knights facing him, it's gonna look tough, but from what he faced in the most hellish dungeons before, this much is nothing to him. 2 of the knights throw their weapons, hurling at him with speed. Misato conjures an earth wall, defending himself just in time. But the knights around him are just too fast. They're overwhelming him with a flank. Covering his blind spot, this guy conjures a long-distance wind slash and cuts the flankers down. At this rate, Misato knows full well that beating them in single-styled combat isn't beneficial for him. He would love to obliterate them with a single spell right now, but in the kind of situation he's in, he doesn't even have time to focus on building an image. So he forces himself to adopt other means, strengthening his body and evading quickly, intending to use the one spell he's already seen before. That spell he's talking about is Iwaki's ability, and though he hates the cockroach with his life, this is the only option he has. Misato invokes the powers of the void and forces stones to shoot up from the ground. The familiar spell leaves Ingolf speechless, because then, the young mage pairs it with the wind spell. Combining the two, he launches a wide-range attack, a fusion ability between wind and earth magic, one that torpedoes its way against a dozen knights. Just its formation sends out ripples from the top of the tower. By the end of that climactic finish, the armored knights are in shambles, and Misato has won. He stares down at the gemstone, grabbing it in his hand and concluding the end of the game. Mateo comes out of hiding, thrilled that his master successfully fended them all off. Even the students watching release an uproar in celebration, while Shirato is starstruck with this tremendous fusion ability of his, finding it terrifying. Ingolf laughs, amused that a student can easily access a spell that one of the strongest heroes spent many years developing. He's fascinated by Kyosuke as an exceptional talent, and hopes for him to carve his way into the special class, believing he can refine him to perfection. In the next scene, we're at the reward ceremony hall where Misato is being presented as the top dog who jumped his way into the express class. Our boy walked up to the stage while gaining a ton of fans, since he only spent 1 month here at the academy and already climbed his way through the classes. They're even starting to think he's a monster, putting respect on his name like Mateo does. With the top students lined up, they're presented with an armband ceremony, and for this occasion, the most special guest is invited. Our boy realizes who this guest is going to be, and it's none other than the scumbag Ingolf who comes up on stage. Lord Ingolf stuns the rest of the crowd, while Misato is 1 second away from steamrolling his ass on stage. Everyone seems to be dumbfounded how this man took time out of his day for this ceremony, making even Misato wonder about the guy's intentions. Lord Ingolf praises the kid for his exceptional performance, to which Misato pays utmost respect. He grabs the armband, and right then, Ingolf demands that he come to his estate the same night. The rest of the audience couldn't piece together his words, only Misato knew what he said. Saying so, he leaves just as fast as he came, forcing Misato to contemplate this guy's scheme. So that night, he does find himself at the hero's estate. The butler welcomes the kid, while Misato is still contemplating what's the deal with him. He's a little bit annoyed that Ingolf might have figured out his real identity, because in that case, he would be fighting this guy without any prep work. Misato finds his way into his room, knowing that this could turn into the worst possible outcome, an actual fight. He watches Ingolf sitting at the table all by himself with a feast prepared. The guy doesn't even look at the kid and tells him to sit down, urging him to eat first. I can't stress this enough, but Misato is genuinely on his toes, waiting for what's about to happen. After the meal, Ingolf personally credits the kid's tremendous display of magic at the festival. The fight at the top floor was his favorite, but he does have one curious question to ask. With the most death-staring glare ever, Ingolf demands to know what secrets this kid is hiding. Both the question and his scary glare sends a chill down our boy's spine, making him fear that he knows about the identity. Choosing to deny that assumption, Misato reflects that if Ingolf really knew, then he would come clean already, which means something else is going on. The esteemed hero recalls the fusion spell that the kid used at the top level, a spell that Iwako spent his entire life honing to perfection. So it's just strange for a young kid to use it out of the blue. Misato now sees a path forward, realizing that the conversation is headed in the interest of magic, so he responds saying how he learned personal training from Iwako in Japan. This is an adequate explanation for how he came to learn about the fusion magic technique. Keeping a smile, Misato calls Iwako an excellent teacher and credits him for refining his skills. It's a sound explanation, and Ingolf actually buys that story. His only concern is for the kid to never misuse his powers, or else his fate will be no different than the fallen Misato Kyoichiro, the man who nearly destroyed the world. It's hilarious that this douchebag is lecturing him not to be a scumbag while being the biggest scumbag of all. Ingolf transitions into the topic of the SSS rank dungeon disaster from 20 years ago. He talks down on the man who reveled in his own strength to the point he became twisted with his ideals. He paints the picture of how Misato is a villain who dragged monsters out of that dungeon in an all-out scheme to destroy the strongest heroes, his own comrades. This version of the story leaves our boy winded. This guy's level of delusion is on a different level. Ingolf calls Misato Kyoichiro a phony, a jealous hero who wanted everything for himself, so he put his action into motion, and it's only thanks to the help of his allies that they managed to stop his scheme. All the while this is happening, our boy is holding back every fiber of his being from beating his ass here for making up that bullshit story. It's like he's being trash-talked right in his face, because even after 20 years, these vicious traitors chose to stick with the story they made up on their own. Ingolf turns around to warn the student, never to let his power consume him. Before he can finish, the young mage cuts him off, stating that power is necessary to defeat evil, and his ultimate goal is to become the strongest person, far stronger than anyone else. The hero is starstruck with the boy's conviction, and finds him just as amusing as he did at the festival. Rewarding his confidence, Ingolf has prepared a present for the kid. In the next training cycle, he's going to be personally tutoring the kid as his sparring partner, as long as the young mage is up to the challenge. Misato agrees, sharing how honored he feels to share an arena against him. That's how their meeting comes to a close, with Misato reflecting how this is the perfect reward he could have ever wanted. He's dying to use this match as an opportunity to squash him like a bug to get his revenge. The day of special class periodic training arrives. Some students are jealous to see Ingolf, hoping they would train them, but then they find our boy casually staring them down at the bench. Just watching his menacing glare is enough to scare them off. Misato is pissed off and wants to settle the score with this bastard, and thanks to their promised mock battle, it can finally happen. He knows that this guy thinks it's a normal training session, but reality will soon crumble for him when he crumbles him to dust, making him regret his decisions 2 decades ago. The periodic session starts off with the hero arriving at the scene. Our boy watches him walk by, lecturing the students, calling them the Academy's finest of all. He believes in the idea of spicing things up from their normal schedule to a proper sparring match. Watching them get scared, he calms them down and explains that his opponent is going to be none other than Kyosuke. Mateo is among the few spectators watching this mock battle. He knew it was a good idea to skip class, even though Shirato is observing them, and he takes note of her. Since she's not his master's girlfriend, bro wants her for himself. The chick can already sense that a creep is eyeing her down, so she refuses to give him any attention. Her real focus is on the man branded as a saint, someone who is celebrated across the world as a hero. It's going to be interesting to watch Misato face an opponent like that. As the two stare each other down, our boy reflects on Ingolf's competency. He's one of the best fighters around, and is realms apart from Iwako and Lei. However, he doesn't know that the one person who is going to lose this matchup is him. Making the first move, the hero starts off light with a powered-up enhanced punch. That devastated punch generates enough force that it knocks our boy several feet back, stunning the spectators. This is the might of Ingolf's wind magic. Our boy realizes that his opponent is using body enhancement alongside it, so he decides to respond appropriately with a counter of earth magic. He sends a pillar hurling in his direction, forcing Ingolf to block and smash it to pieces, impressing our boy. Misato curiously asks if his teacher is using enhancement magic just now, though he knows the answer. The problem is, he used a powerful reinforced earth attack, and even then it got shattered from a casual hit. Ingolf is no joke, and so he reveals a casual flex. All this time, bro wasn't even using body enhancement magic. That's just his base strength, which is freaking insane. Next up, he charges another spell, sending it blasting in Misato's direction. Even our boy looks distressed and barely dodges it using the propulsive wind magic around his feet. But that's where things get tricky, as Ingolf starts spamming the same spell dozens of times, overwhelming Misato every time he dodges. Mateo can't fathom what he's seeing right now. It's the first time he's seen his master in such a tight spot. Ingolf is impressed with the kid's ability to dance around, but the battle's not finished. This time, he unleashes a way stronger move, one that nearly catches our boy and pummels its way through the earth. Misato is in a genuinely tight spot, and if he got hit by even a single one of these attacks, he would be down for good. This is reason enough for him to go all out from the get-go. The young mage stopped dancing around, confusing the hero, who wonders if the boy is about to release a counterattack. Misato musters up the same technique that he used at the Tower Festival, invoking the wonders of fusion magic. He sends it hurling towards Ingolf's way, who is forced to block its tremendous impact. Even for a hero like him, it's a hefty blow. However, ultimately he ends up blocking it, surprising Masato again. From this fight alone, our boy realizes that Ingolf has become far stronger than what he was 20 years ago. The hero praises his student for being excellent, and wonders if he should tap into his real strength. Ingolf releases a beaming yellow aura, entering a special state of magic reserved only for him. The fierce hero challenges the young mage to entertain him as the fight enters round 2. This new spell is something beyond the scope of Masato's knowledge, meaning Ingolf developed it in recent years after his death. Even then, he doesn't care and hopes to test it for himself. Activating void magic, he goes all out with a barrage of earthly ripples. This kind of earth magic surprises his opponent. The attack is supposed to cover an entire area. Dodging makes it impossible. Then there's a sneak attack, because the ground crumbles and sinks the very floor underneath his opponent. Now that he's got him in a weak stance, Masato strategically manipulates both earth and wind magic again for a fusion effect. Deploying his combined spell, he releases an enormous blast on the already inconvenienced Ingolf. Mateo cheers for his master, constantly impressed by his usage of fusion magic. Shirato can see that Lord Ingolf has completely lost his balance and can't dodge in the air, which means this hit is going to land no matter the outcome. The fusion magic ruptures its way towards the hero, who smiles with confidence. Then this man starts screaming to become a bearded Super Saiyan. Masato is confused about what he's about to pull off. The dude extends his hands and gains total control over the spell. With his bare hands, this man tears apart the blast as if it were paper. His diffusion of the spell sends shockwaves around him, though he smiles knowing in confidence that he did what he just did. Even our boy is mad confused how this man straight up ripped apart his spell. A magic spell of that scale being nullified like that stuns Shirato too. Acting like he's tough shit, Ingolf states that the impressive attack is not enough to pierce the durability of his mana armor. This confirms to Masato that this guy's golden aura is actually being deployed as an armor effect, but that still doesn't hold a candle to him ripping off the fusion spell like he did. Ingolf addresses that his armor allows more than just simple durability, turning his entire body into a living and breathing weapon, combining his attack and defense stats. That is the true purpose of his armor. Overwhelmingly confident, he teleports right above Masato with his fist prepared. Our boy forcibly avoids just in time, but that single punch just now shatters the ground as if it were a missile. Mateo watches as his master gets clobbered by the debris. The pressure tapers off and the smoke settles, revealing a scarred earth. Mistau cleans the blood from his cut, realizing that he severely underestimated his opponent. Ingolf is not only much stronger, his newest mana armor technique is genuinely a pain in the ass to work against. Like always, our boy has countermeasures chalked up in his head. The only problem is, his spell is incomplete, so there's a chance it might fail. Lord Ingolf adjusts his wrists, cockily asking the student to attack him. To end the fight on his own, he marches with brute force for the finishing blow. With his speed, Masato knows he's cooked, so he lays out his final gamble. Invoking the power of the void, he struggles to materialize a new spell. His opponent watches him create something new, but severely underestimates what the goat is about to pull off. The next thing he knows, Ingolf is in a completely different domain. Bro gets pulled into Gojo's infinite void where Masato is making his move. Unfortunately, he bitch slaps the young student before our boy could do anything. The attack staggers Masato quite a bit, leaving him winded. He hasn't yet mastered control over this technique, which means he's out of options. Ingolf uncoils his fist, concluding the sparring session, much to our boy's surprise. The great hero believes that they've crossed the limits of the match, so it's best to end the fight here. It leaves Masato with a sense of frustration and shame, but he genuinely can't do anything but follow orders right now. The training concludes, and the students are dismissed shortly after. All of them praise Lord Ingolf's mighty display for giving them a savory fight. All of them talk down on the young mage, who proved to be incapable of denting the pentagram saint. Mateo comes along to celebrate his master's effort against the great hero, but our boy is seething with rage, boiling on the inside for underestimating his opponent. At his current level, he definitely can't defeat this guy, which means he's gonna need to force an evolution to become stronger. The academy mates are all laughing, but none of them actually realize the kind of potential this young mage has. This is what Shirato personally observes. Even after the fight, Ingolf is left baffled by that one moment during the fight. It wasn't just bloodlust that he felt there, but something even more sinister. Even then, he really liked their duel, believing it's been a while since he fought in this manner. Despite the young mage's defeat, the hero has high expectations for the boy, believing that he'll continue persevering to become even stronger. Back in his estate, the hero settles down in the night, thinking about how he'd never fought someone in a long while who pushed him to this level. But the young mage Kyosuke, he never even anticipated for him to be that strong. Again, the time he was warped in a space of black actually devoured him in fear. It's a kind of feeling that he's familiar with, something he's once felt before. Many years ago, a man came around and defeated him in a battle, calling it his victory. Ingolf felt blitzed and realized that his opponent hid his real spell all this time. Even Masato Kyoichiro of that era admitted that they were nearly equal until the end of the fight. That's why he always continued to surprise his expectations, which is why he saw him as a rival, so he wanted another round to spar against him. That feeling, it makes him nostalgic of the time he spent with his dear friend. Then again, Ingolf remembers the cruel reality of his dark past. Even after what he did to his so-called rival, he feels the regret of not being able to fight someone on equal grounds again. Saying so, he gulps his drink down, hoping Kyosuke to become someone so strong that he can become that kind of person for him. Speaking of which, our boy is headed for another dungeon raid. This spot is the same as it was 2 decades ago, but it's something that can push him to the next level. Misato knows full well that he's incomparable to Ingolf's strength, which is why he needs to learn how to train his fundamentals from the very beginning. The good thing is that this dungeon is made for that kind of training. So he marches right into it, feeling a taste of its gravitational field that is much stronger than the outside world. It's unsurprising that Ingolf's punches slammed him as much as they did back then, and it's a good thing he dodged them instead of getting hit, because only one would be enough to take him out. But first off, Misato requires body strengthening if he's going to be fighting a physical monster, and after closing the gap, he'll end things with the secret spell he's been honing. Confronting titanic monsters in the dungeon with a handicap, Misato urges Ingolf to wait for their rematch. 3 days of hellish training flew by, and Shirato seems confused because of Kyosuke's disappearance, who hasn't shown up after the fight. Even his #1 simp is out here feeling like a zombie, lifeless without his master's charming presence. He runs into his master's fangirl. She actually thinks this is the perfect cover to use, so she blends in with the excuse and asks where Kyosuke went. Obviously, Mateo doesn't have a clue, but he knows that he went to the eastern forest to train. The name strikes out to her, and she realizes what Misato is really doing. With her bolting off, Mateo is stumped watching the fangirl's dedication to finding her idol. Anyway, she ends up arriving in the forest, already knowing about the hidden dungeon. It's the only spot that fits the criteria of training, but the one thing that bothers her is how this guy knows about its details. This place should be something completely new to him after all. Deep down, her gut reaction is starting to form the theory of Asai Kyosuke and Misato Kyoichiro being the same person. Only about a month ago, St. Claudia gave her a special order to act on her behalf. The goal was to investigate any person related to Misato Kyoichiro acting in disguise. And on top of the list, there was Kyosuke's name, whom she ran into. From the way things are going, she's really starting to think that he's the real Kyoichiro that Claudia sent her after. Anyway, Shirato ends up leaping into the dungeon, immediately experiencing its strong gravitational pull. She once came here for another mission, feeling just as terrible back then. What impresses her is how Kyosuke is supposedly grinding his ass off in a place like this. Then she looks up ahead and finds him standing among a sea of monster corpses. This man has now unlocked Ultra Instinct and his aura is far different from before. Watching from a distance, she realizes that this man annihilated probably hundreds of monsters. The man standing before her eyes is LeBron James, looking shredded to the gills. She comes out of the dungeon to report the situation. From the looks of things, she's confident that he's already at Ingolf's level. After making the call to Claudia, she completes her mission by informing her master that the possibility of this guy being Kyoichiro himself is extremely high. Lady Claudia smiles, giggling her heart out. She was dead on in her suspicions, and now things were about to get interesting. Her brainwashed followers worshipped her in the name of the heavenly rack, while she boasts that everything is going according to plan.